Chapter 64. Chief Elder Shui was the one with the highest cultivation in this room. He was already a level 5 separated spirit. Even though he was a medical xiao, his cultivation was higher, and his movements were as fast as a ghost. Su Junmo, Si Kongxing, and the others did not have time to react before Meng Qi was thrown out by his sleeve. Seeing that Meng Qi was about to hit the wall, Si Kongxing raised his hand. Black water suddenly emerged from the ground and rushed towards Meng Qi. Light flashed in Su Junmo's hand. A small feather fan landed in his hand. He raised it towards Chief Elder Shui. Even though he knew the other's cultivation was higher than his, he still raised his hand and a clear light shot towards the other. But Pei Mufeng was even faster. The black figure was not much slower than Chief Elder Shui. Meng Qi only felt her vision blur before her back was supported, and she landed steadily on the ground. At that time, the water summoned by Si Kongxing's spell had just risen. The clear light that Su Junmo sent out had not yet touched Chief Elder Shui. With a clang, a murderous aura swept past. Meng Qi uncontrollably shuddered. Pei Mufeng's long sword was already floating in the air. The tip of the sword flashed with cold light as it pointed straight at Chief Elder Shui. This is Falling Star City. Pei Mufeng stepped forward and protected Meng Qi behind him. He had been polite from beginning to end. No matter how aggressive Chief Elder Shui was, he did not show any impatience or anger. At this time, Pei Mufeng's voice was cold, his gaze even colder than his voice. She is my guest. Chief Elder Shui's gaze flashed. Pei Mufeng was famous as a genius. The name of the sword maniac was not just spread through the sword xiao of Eastern Jia. Even Chief Elder Shui who was in Western Jia had heard of him. This person looked to be only 27 or 28 years old. In reality, he was already at the peak of Yuanying. One of his hands was already at the separated spirit stage. He might break through at any time. Even now, Pei Mufeng's cultivation was lower than his, but Chief Elder Shui did not dare to underestimate him. He, together with his sword, was more than enough to make up for the difference in cultivation between them. Elder Shui's face was livid. His eyes flickered as he slowly turned from Pei Mufeng to Meng Qi, then to Su Junmo and Si Kongxing. Little friend Su, are you also prepared to attack this old man? Great Elder Shui's voice slowed down as he asked indifferently. I brought her here. Su Junmo also stepped forward and stood between First Elder Shui and Meng Qi. Besides, she's just a Zhuji cultivator. Even if she makes you unhappy, do you really want to argue with a Zhuji cultivator for the sake of your junior? Shui Chengxian looked at Su Junmo in surprise. The other party didn't even say something like, Meng Qi might have done something wrong to anger Elder Shui. She directly said that Elder Shui didn't like her. He was determined to protect Meng Qi. Shui Chengxian instinctively looked down at the curtain that had been closed again. As the eldest brother, he more or less knew what his little sister was thinking. Shui Lingfeng didn't wait for her father, and came to Descending Star City in advance. Wasn't it for this Su Junmo? Ha! Great Elder Shui laughed coldly. He looked past Su and Pei, and his hawk-like gaze landed on Meng Qi. A Zhuji cultivator can discover Lingfeng's problem with a glance. This is a special time, I'm just a bit more vigilant. Brother Shui. Su Junmo didn't argue with Great Elder Shui at all. He turned to look at Shui Chengxian. Meng Qi came with me. Does the Shui family not trust me? Shui Chengxian stilled. Even Shui Lingfeng, who was sitting on the bed, suddenly reached out to lift the curtain. She looked at Su Junmo with wide eyes. Her bright eyes were filled with disbelief. Su Junmo had always had a good relationship with the Shui family. In the past few years in the Western Kingdom, they had interacted a lot with each other. He was very easygoing and had a good relationship with the Shui family. He was handsome and elegant, and his cultivation talent was also high. In addition, he was very knowledgeable. Occasionally, when he was free, he would drink and chat with the Shui family siblings. They talked about all kinds of interesting things. Tomato novel. Even the head of the Shui family, Shui Qingshuan's father, praised him quite a bit. Shui Lingfeng had long been secretly in love with him and admired him greatly. Big brother Su. Seeing that the relationship between the two families was going to be strained, Shui Lingfeng couldn't care less about who Meng Qi was. She took a deep breath and said softly, Don't be angry. Granduncle is just too worried about me. She paused and said, "Granduncle has always been very caring towards us juniors. How could he really hurt this sister who's about the same age as me? She's only a Zhuji cultivator. Granduncle is just scaring her. He won't really hurt her." As soon as Xue Lingfeng opened her mouth, her gentle and pleasant voice eased the tense atmosphere in the room. Xue Qingxian also let out a sigh of relief. Lingfeng was poisoned and unconscious. Granduncle and I are very worried about her. Brother Su, please don't take offense. As he spoke, he cupped his hands towards Su Zhenmo. I was rude. Although Great Elder Xue was their elder, Xue Qingxian was already recognized as the future head of the Xue family. He was also being groomed as the future head of the Wind Alliance. He was humble and gentle, and always respected his elders. However, if he spoke in front of outsiders, the entire Xue family would tacitly not refute him. Since he said this, it meant that he didn't want to have a strained relationship with Su Zhenmo. Great Elder Xue could only endure it. After Xue Qingxian finished speaking, he turned towards Meng Qi and cupped his hands, saying sincerely, "Fellow Taoist Meng, I offended you just now. Please don't take offense." Si Kongxing had already run to Meng Qi's side. Upon hearing Xue Qingshuan's words, the girl in red snorted and turned her small face to the side. Obviously, she was still angry. However, Meng Qi shook her head and said hoarsely, "It's fine." If she wanted to blame someone, she could only blame her own cultivation for being too low. In her previous life, she didn't pay much attention to cultivation, and was often restrained because of it. Now that she was reborn, she should have learned her lesson and paid attention to cultivation. Meng Qi made up her mind. Once the medical cultivator conference ended, she would find a place to enter closed-door meditation. Enter closed-door meditation. No matter what, she had to at least form her gold core first. Thank you, Pavilion Master Pei. Meng Qi thanked Pei Mufeng. She walked towards Su Zhenmo and said, "Let's go back." Su Zhenmo almost fell out with the Xue clan, because he protected her. No matter how curious Meng Qi was about the poison and formation confinement in Xue Lingfeng's body, she couldn't stay any longer. Besides, the Xue clan's patriarch was about to arrive, so Xue Lingfeng would be fine no matter what. Okay. Su Zhenmo nodded. He cupped his hands toward Xue Qingxian and said, "We'll take our leave." After he finished speaking, he turned around and walked towards the door with Meng Qi and Si Kongxing. Xue Qingxian wanted to ask about the formation, but in the end, he just opened his mouth and didn't say anything. He sighed silently in his heart, and turned to look at Xue Lingfeng, who couldn't hide her disappointment as she watched Su Zhenmo leave. "Lingfeng, have a good rest. When father arrives tomorrow, he'll naturally cure you." Xue Lingfeng nodded gently and said obediently, "I'm fine. I just hope that big brother Su won't have any animosity towards our clan because of this. Granduncle is really just too concerned about me. How could he really hurt that foundational cultivator sister? I just don't know why big brother Su is so angry?" She asked somewhat innocently. "Is this sister related to big brother Su?" "I don't know either." Xue Qingxian shook his head. "Don't think too much and worry about these trivial matters. Okay." Xue Lingfeng smiled sweetly at him. "With big brother here, I'm not afraid." After she finished speaking, she smiled brightly at Great Elder Xue. "Granduncle, you're scaring the little girl like this. Do you think she grew up being lectured by you like me and big sister?" Pavilion Master Pei. Xue Lingfeng finally looked towards Pei Mufeng. The youth's chiseled handsome and cold face made her slightly stunned. She quickly regained her senses and smiled at Pei Mufeng. "Because of Lingfeng's matter, I've troubled you. Lingfeng would like to thank you." Pei Mufeng shook his head silently. He looked at Xue Lingfeng. "Miss Xue, rest well." Pei Mufeng paused and then said, "Then I'll leave first. I'll visit again tomorrow." As he spoke, he raised his hands in a bow and turned to stride out the door. When he left, Xue Qingxian and Great Elder Xue also left Xue Lingfeng's room. Great Elder Xue stood outside the room and watched as Xue Qingxian carefully closed the door for his sister. His gaze was like lightning as he looked at him. "Qingxian, you should keep that girl. She seems to know more than this." He paused and then said, "This way, we can answer to your father tomorrow." "I have an explanation to father," Xue Qingxian said in a low voice. "She was brought by brother Su. Brother Su is a guest that father has always placed great importance on. As he spoke, he raised his head to look at Great Elder Shui. His gaze was not as gentle and refined as it was in the room in front of Shui Lingfeng. Shui Chengxian straightened his back and looked more serious than before. I'm saving face for granduncle in front of outsiders. Granduncle, I hope you won't make things difficult for me next time. Please go back and rest early. Father should arrive early tomorrow morning. Under the night sky, Mengqi and Si Kongxing walked slowly side by side. Su Junmo was a little bored and guarded beside the two of them. He was still very unhappy. Shuechen is really too much. I'm so angry. He hit Mengqi in front of me, and even wanted to throw her out. What kind of joke is this? If it weren't for that Pei Mufeng reacted fast enough, Mengqi would have been seriously injured by him. I'm so angry. I'm so angry. Keep your voice down. If you're unhappy, go back and beat him up. Don't disturb Mengqi here. Si Kongxing glared at him. You didn't say you wanted to beat him up just now. Otherwise, if we join forces, so what if that old man is in the spirit-severing stage? With the two of us and Pei Mufeng, we can't lose. That's the Shui family. You didn't see it last time. Shui Chengxian used the Shui family's library to tempt Mengqi. Mengqi's eyes instantly shone brighter than the stars in the sky. If she wants to enter the Wind Alliance in the future, she definitely won't have any hope if we beat up the Shui family's first elder now. Won't she be angry with us later? Mengqi won't be angry. But I don't like the Shui family. That old man doesn't like it. That poison Shui Lingfeng is also strange. Her brother is also very annoying. Compared to Pavilion Master Pei, she's so much better. If you ask me, why did Mengqi go to the Wind Alliance? Isn't the Falling Star Pavilion good? The Wind Alliance is the West Land. No. It's one of the largest medical cultivation sects in the 3,000 worlds. It's the holy land for medical cultivators in the 4 realms. Mengqi is also a medical cultivator. Why did she go to the Falling Star Pavilion? Didn't you see that when Pei Mufeng's long sword was drawn, only the two of us were stunned? Those medical cultivators looked like they saw a piece of rotten metal? You don't understand. The two of them bickered along the way. Mengqi walked slowly beside Si Kongxing. She actually heard their conversation. But it was like a fleeting cloud that quickly ran out of her mind without leaving any trace. Mengqi. Si Kongxing held Mengqi's arm and shook it. What are you thinking about? Although I don't recognize the array on Shui Lingfeng's body, but... She lowered her hand and looked at her fingers. She couldn't help but sigh again. What an exquisite technique. What an ingenious idea. Even you don't recognize it? Si Kongxing and Su Junmo looked at each other. In their eyes, Mengqi was already a top-notch formation expert, second only to those few. There was actually an array that even she didn't recognize. Yes. Mengqi nodded. I don't know who set up the array. Afterimage grass and cold plum juice. Shui Lingfeng used his own spirit energy to drive the array, and then imprisoned her. Even the poison was sealed under the imprisonment of her body. This person is not only proficient in array studies, but also in medical skills. She looked up at the sky and murmured, I don't know what kind of person would have such thoughts. It's truly amazing. In the beast house in the storage bag, Little Chi's fluffy little paws were originally scratching on the ground casually. If one looked closely at the trajectory of his paws, they would see that he was drawing the array that Mengqi had just seen on Shui Lingfeng's back. Was it a stunning talent? Mengqi's voice reached his ears, and Little Chi's blue eyes flashed with a cold light. His eyelids drooped slightly. His fluffy paws moved and wiped away the traces of the half-drawn array. It was just the 4 Seasons 4 Commands array. He recognized it at a glance. Was it rare? Not to mention the 4 Extremes array and the Great Star array, which were top-level arrays in the Demon Realm. Even the Great Fire array used by Mengqi when refining medicine, and the array she used as a protective array before, could easily shake off the 4 Seasons 4 Commands array by several levels. The array that the person who injured Shui Lingfeng knew was just a small trick. Little Chi lazily put away his paws. Mengqi had never seen it before, and the other party added a little poison in the array, which made it even more gaudy. A strange trick was enough to confuse people, but it was nothing to worry about. Chapter 65. Si Kongxing listened with a blank expression. Su Junmo was slightly better. He was not good at arrays, but he had been with his lord for a long time and had heard a lot about arrays. He could understand what Mengqi was saying. Because he could understand, his heart beat like a drum. He asked uncomfortably, "Do you think the person who poisoned Shui Lingfeng is really that powerful?" What Su Junmo really wanted to ask was he more powerful than his lord? Mengqi's excellent array knowledge was all-encompassing. It covered almost all the arrays that the Sky Demon White Tiger clan specialized in. Su Junmo did not even need to think to know that it must have been taught by his lord. That's quite powerful. Mengqi nodded. Su Junmo. He thought for a while and said, "If it's really that powerful, isn't it too much to use it on a little girl like Shui Lingfeng?" "Yes, it is." Mengqi nodded. Her hand that was hanging by her side kept moving her fingers in the air. Her mind was spinning quickly. She had never seen this array before, nor did she recognize it. However, it seemed to have opened a door to a world that she had never thought of. This method was too ingenious. It could be used to confine and poison. It could also be used on healing drugs. Mengqi raised her head slightly. But what was this array? It could be drawn on a person's body and absorb spiritual energy from the person's body for its own use. She paused in her steps. If not for the fact that Su Junmo had been so rude to the Shui family's elder for her, she would have thought that it was already too late. Mengqi even wanted to go back and study the array on Shui Lingfeng's back. So this guy is a sneaky and despicable person who only dares to bully little girls. Su Junmo was still mumbling. The medical cultivation conference is in Descending Star City. There are many famous people there, and the pavilion master of Descending Star Pavilion is there too. If he really wants to make a move, he can find Pei Mufeng, Xue Qingxian, or other cultivators. It's a little too much to find a little girl. Su Junmo, do you like that girl from the Xue family? Si Kongxing suddenly asked. What nonsense are you talking about? Su Junmo was shocked. Why would I like her? Si Kongxing snorted softly. Look at how you're standing up for her angrily. She also calls you Brother Su so intimately. I thought you liked her. Like a ghost. Su Junmo was so angry that he laughed. Shui Lingfeng is just a little girl. I don't have any romantic feelings for her. Mengqi had long been accustomed to their bickering. Her ears were filled with the sound of chattering, but she was not affected at all. As soon as she returned to Rosy Lane, she quickly returned to her room and closed the door. She first let little Qi out, then took out a bamboo slip and recorded everything she saw that night. Mengqi took out another piece of paper and drew the formation on Shui Lingfeng's back. What on earth was this? Mengqi had a good memory. As long as it was taught by her master, she would know the names of some formations even if she could not use them for the time being. It seemed that she had learned too little. Mengqi's fingers tapped on the table unconsciously. Little Qi lay on the bed alone for a while. Mengqi still had no intention of resting. She sat at the table with her back to the bed. There was a lamp on the table. The lamppost emitted a white light, outlining Mengqi's slender figure. Her green robe was tied up by a belt, and her black hair was simply tied up. This scene looked so simple that it was almost ordinary. Little Qi stared at it for a while, and felt an indescribable feeling that he had never felt before. He waited for a while, and saw that Mengqi still had no intention of resting. Little White Tiger suddenly jumped down from the bed. Its claws, which had been completely healed, landed silently on the ground. Then it walked silently towards Mengqi. Mengqi only saw a black shadow flash in front of her. She looked up and saw little Qi landing lightly on the table. She instinctively reached out to hold his front paw. His furry paw was clean, and his wound had healed without leaving a trace. His white fur had become soft, neat, and round again. He looked exceptionally cute. Mengqi could not help but pinch little Qi's paw a few times. Little Qi, you go to sleep first. Mengqi let go of little Qi's paw. She stroked his furry little head and pinched his ears. Then she retracted her hand and turned her gaze back to the paper in front of her. Little Qi. He took a step forward, and his front paw was already on the paper with the formation drawn on it. It was just the 4 seasons 4 commands formation. She had been thinking about it the whole way and did not even sleep when she came back. Should she continue looking at it? Little Qi's eyes flickered. He could actually teach Meng Qi. This formation was really nothing special. She even knew the 4 extremes and star formations. The 4 seasons 4 commands formation was very simple for her. Just by casually learning it, she would know that the person who knew this array had not even touched the threshold of the study of arrays. It was really nothing. How could he think of a way to teach her? Meng Qi saw Little Qi's paw stepping on the paper and quickly pulled it away. She softly chided, "Don't mess around." She pushed Little Qi a little further away and laid the paper on the table again. "Go to sleep first. Be good, Little Qi." As she spoke, she rubbed Little Qi's head again. She already had an idea. When Shizhuan had taught her the 4 extremes formation change formation, he had said that the study of formations and medicine had similarities. Change formations were born out of the original formation. If one mastered the core of the original formation, then they could create thousands of change formations as they wished. For the same reason, there were similarities between formations as well. While she had never seen the formation on Shui Lingfeng's back, she thought that it would not be very special. Meng Qi propped her chin on one hand and sank into her thoughts. The best way was to treat Shui Lingfeng and study the use of this formation at the same time. But now, Meng Qi's heart itched, but she knew that she should not go back and meddle in this matter. The Shui family naturally had a way to cure Shui Lingfeng. They did not trust her and did not welcome her. Su Junmo and Si Kongxing had offended the elders of the Shui family in order to protect her. She could not go back. Meng Qi's hands clenched and relaxed as she tried to suppress the itch in her heart. She suddenly stood up. Other than Shui Lingfeng, didn't they say that another Xiuzhe was injured in Descending Star City? Meng Qi's left hand clenched into a fist and hammered the palm of her right hand. How could she forget about this? It was more or less the same to say that he was injured. She could not go see Shui Lingfeng, but she could go see the other injured person. Meng Qi was instantly overjoyed and happily put away the paper on the table. "Little Qi, I'm going to find Pei Mufeng." She smiled and rubbed Little Qi's head. "You should go back to the beast house first." Without waiting for Little Qi to react, Meng Qi quickly picked it up and stuffed it into the beast house. Then she put it into her storage bag and quickly walked towards the door. Little Qi. He lay in the beast house, a cold light flashing through his blue eyes. Was she this happy? Did she not study formations anymore? He had rarely seen Meng Qi's emotions fluctuate so obviously. Her happiness was written all over her face. She was not this happy even when she finally bought the Jiu and healed the wound on his hand. The biggest change in Meng Qi's emotions was when she was drunk in the heavens beyond heaven. She cried uncontrollably in front of him. He could not even pacify the spirit stones. Meng Qi had already walked out of the door. Si Kongxing, she knocked on Si Kongxing's door first. After knocking twice, Si Kongxing quickly opened the door. "Si Kongxing, I want to find Pavilion Master Pei. Can I trouble you to accompany me?" Meng Qi asked. "Of course." Si Kongxing stepped forward and affectionately held onto Meng Qi's arm. "I'll accompany you wherever you want to go. Thank you." Meng Qi smiled at her, revealing 2 shallow dimples. "Let's go then." She knew that her cultivation level was not high. Descending Star City was protected by the Descending Star Pavilion, so it should be safe. It was better to be careful. "Isn't your name Su Junmo?" Si Kongxing casually closed the door. Just as she finished speaking, another door in the courtyard opened. Su Junmo answered. "Where are you going?" "Bring me along." Thus the 3 of them walked out again. At this time, the night was even darker. Descending Star City was in dreamland. The streets were quiet, and only the lanterns that had not been put away in time emitted a faint light. "Didn't Pavilion Master Pei say that she would be staying at the villa tonight?" Meng Qi asked. "You're going to look for Pei Mufeng?" Su Junmo was stunned. They were now walking towards Descending Star Pavilion's villa in the city. He could not help but purse his lips. Was this not a good idea? Meng Qi, wasn't she his lord's person? Yes. Meng Qi nodded. Didn't Pavilion Master Pei say that there were other cultivators in Descending Star City who were injured like Miss Shui? I want to take a look. Oh. Su Junmo despised himself. He should have thought of it. How could it be any other man who could make Mengqi so happy? Mengqi was not the kind of person who was fickle. Descending Star Pavilion's villa was also in the East City. 2 medical Xiao were injured in Descending Star City. The villa was brightly lit at this time. Many people were clearly still awake. Pei Mufeng received the report from his disciple, and quickly came out to welcome them. Mengqi. He hurriedly greeted Su Junmo and Si Kongxing, then quickly walked in front of Mengqi. He quickly sized her up. What happened? Earlier, you said there were other people who were poisoned like Miss Xue. I want to take a look, Mengqi said. Yes. Pei Mufeng nodded. I'll take you there. As he spoke, he turned and gave orders to the disciples guarding the gates of the villa. Then he said to them, let's go. Pei Mufeng did not ask anything. He seemed to feel that it was natural for Mengqi to appear here in the middle of the night, and want to see another injured Xiuzha. That Xiuzha is a disciple of Southern Border's Blue Sea College, a Jindan 7th Realm disciple. His cultivation is about the same as Xue Lingfeng. He was found unconscious after being poisoned, and sent to the inn of Blue Sea College. That disciple is the most favored last disciple of the sect leader of Blue Sea College, Shen Jingheng. Sect leader Shen was furious and suspected that it was another sect of the Southern Border that had been at odds with them. So what you and Miss Sikong saw today was them fighting outside the East Gate. Mengqi nodded. Pei Mufeng said so much in one breath, and explained the cause and effect clearly. He still did not ask why Mengqi wanted to go there. He quickly led the 3 to another inn. Here. Pei Mufeng said. He explained to the Blue Sea College disciples guarding the gate, and led Mengqi and the others into the inn. The sect leader of Blue Sea College and his injured disciple were all living in an independent courtyard of this inn. Hearing the disciples say that Pei Mufeng had come in person, Shen Jingheng personally came out to greet him. Pavilion Master Pei. He raised his hands in greeting to Pei Mufeng. Is there new news? These 3 are Su Junmo, Si Kongxing and Mengqi. Pei Mufeng briefly introduced the 3 to Shen Jingheng. Finally, he pointed to Mengqi and said, Mengqi is also a medical cultivator. She wants to see the injured disciples of your sect. Pei Mufeng paused and added, Mengqi is my friend. Chapter 66. The master of Falling Star Pavilion had personally acknowledged her as a friend. Even the master of Surging Waves College did not dare to ignore her. Shen Jingheng's expression turned serious. Even though he could tell that Mengqi was only a foundational cultivator, he still greeted her seriously. We were at the Xue family just now. Pei Mufeng continued. Miss Xue was also sent to Falling Star City after being poisoned today. Her situation is the same as Li Chei's. Mengqi wants to see you. Okay. Shen Jingheng hesitated for a moment before nodding. He simply stepped aside and waved his hand politely. Thank you, little friend Meng. With Shen Jingheng's age, it was appropriate for him to call Mengqi little friend. Surging Waves College was one of the 3 strongest medical cultivation sects in the southern land. However, there was not a single medical cultivation sect in the southern land. Shen Jingheng did not want to offend the master of Falling Star Pavilion, nor did he want to complicate matters. Furthermore, the person lying on the bed right now was his most beloved disciple. His talent was extremely high. He still hoped that he would be able to bring glory to the sect. YYXS. La, I can cure little Chei's poison. Shen Jingheng led the 2 of them to the room of the injured disciple, Li Chei, and said, Since the 2 of you have visited Miss Xue, you should know that little Chei was also imprisoned by someone. If a Jindan cultivator were to cure him, I'm afraid it would be counterproductive. Yes. Pei Mufeng responded softly. They had already walked to Li Chei's bed. Mengqi looked at the youth lying on the bed. The other party looked younger than Pei Mufeng. His appearance was rather delicate. He was lying on the bed with his eyes closed. His skin was pale, and his thin lips were so dry that they looked like they were about to split open. Mengqi looked at this face that was definitely not unfamiliar to her. Her heart suddenly jumped. When she heard Pei Mufeng mention the name Li Chei, she already felt that it was very familiar. Now that she looked at it, she knew this person too. Lu Qingran not only had many fanatical pursuers, but she also had close friends. Li Che, who was also a medical cultivator and was quite talented in medical skills, was one of them. Meng Qi didn't know what the relationship between him and Lu Qingran was, but she had seen Lu Qingran say that she wanted a rare elixir. Lu Qingran was willing to take the risk and go to the famous ferocious beast's nest in the Trichiliocosm to find the elixir. And in his words, it was all for Lu Qingran's smile. Meng Qi was very happy just now, but now he was hesitant. It was another person that Lu Qingran knew. She frowned. Why did Li Che want to know Lu Qingran? Wasn't it better to stay in the south? Were there no girls in the south? Meng Qi couldn't help but want to complain. She pursed her lips. It seemed that she had safely passed through the crisis ahead. This meant that she had chosen the right direction. Then this Li Che. What's wrong? Pei Mufeng seemed to see her dilemma and asked in a low voice. Meng Qi hesitated. Let me take a look first. She could at least take a look first. Taking a look wouldn't cause any trouble, right? Pei Mufeng nodded and reached out to help the unconscious Li Che up. Meng Qi reached out to push his hair aside and gently pulled down his soft inner clothes. There was indeed a flower blooming on the back of the youth's neck. But this time, it was no longer a plum blossom, but a peach blossom blooming on a branch. The peach blossom was still light green. Meng Qi simply reached out and took off Li Che's clothes. Shen Jingheng wanted to say something, but in the end, he just opened his mouth and didn't say anything. Meng Qi was a girl, and his disciple was a man. Since the girl didn't mind, he didn't need to care too much about it. Li Che looked delicate and weak, but his body was not thin at all. Under his tight skin was a body that wasn't exaggerated, but was full of strength. In the middle of his back, there was also an exquisite array drawn. Around the array, for peach blossoms slanted out and stretched in 4 directions. Meng Qi's eyes flashed. The array on Li Che's back looked a little different from the one on Shui Lingfeng's back. She subconsciously raised her fingers and slowly traced the lines on the other party's back with her slender and slightly cold fingers. They looked very similar, but there were still differences. From the looks of it, the other party's array was very likely to be a set of arrays. Meng Qi had seen many sets of arrays like this before. For example, the 4 extreme arrays that her honored master taught her. Whether it was a transformation array or an original array, they were all complete sets of arrays. Another example was the soul-chasing 5-element sword array that was auctioned at the Heaven-class auction. It was also a complete set of arrays. Then would there be a 3rd or even 4th person injured? Li Che, who was originally unconscious, suddenly let out a low groan. He slowly opened his tightly shut eyes and turned to look at the side of the bed. Master! Li Che called out in a slightly dazed and hoarse voice. Little Che, how do you feel? Shen Jingheng rushed forward and supported his beloved disciple. I'm fine. Li Che's voice was slightly hoarse. I just feel cold all over, as if I've been poisoned. It's also residual shadow grass and winter plum flower juice. Meng Qi retracted her hand. Shen Jingheng nodded. No matter how weak the medical cultivators of the southern border were, he was still the head of the Surging Waves Academy that had been passed down for thousands of years. The poison in my disciple's body is easy to cure. The key is the restriction on his body, he said in a low voice. I heard that Shui Lingfeng of the Shui family is also in the same situation. I wonder if they have any solutions? They are waiting for the head of the Shui family. Meng Qi said. There is a similar array on Miss Shui's body. Oh. Shen Jingheng looked at Meng Qi. You mean a similar array? Medical cultivators had always been more attentive. He immediately understood the meaning behind Meng Qi's words. Little friend Meng, you seem to be quite knowledgeable in the study of arrays. As soon as Li Che returned, he personally examined his disciple. Naturally, he also saw the array on his disciple's body. However, the study of 3,000 world arrays was only slowly known by people in the past 200 years, with the rise of the artifact cultivators. Shen Jingheng also did not know much. When he heard Meng Qi say the word similar, he guessed that the other party probably knew about arrays. Shen Jingheng cupped his hands towards Meng Qi again. I hope you can enlighten me. He was so polite partly because of Pei Mufeng. The other part was because Meng Qi immediately discovered the array on Li Chei's back as soon as he entered the door. Moreover, he was able to say something about it, which rekindled Shen Jingheng's hope. Li Chei seemed to have only just noticed Meng Qi. He was still a little dizzy. He turned his head to look at Meng Qi, who was standing there with a frown. "You are Lu Qingran?" Li Chei said as he shook his head. Everything he saw was hazy. He could only see a slender girl in a green robe standing at the side. There was also a faint medicinal fragrance on her body. His heart skipped a beat. He subconsciously thought that the person who suddenly appeared in his room was the medical cultivator girl he met on the road that day. "I'm not," Meng Qi said lightly. They really knew each other. She sighed silently in her heart, disappointment written all over her face. "Oh," Li Chei responded softly. He seemed to be a little wronged. Her tone was indeed different. This girl's voice sounded cold. The Lu Qingran he knew was a very gentle, kind and sympathetic girl. "Little Chei." Shen Jingheng hurriedly coughed softly and asked, "Do you still remember? What the hell happened? How did you get poisoned?" Yes. Although Li Chei's vision was hazy, his mind was very clear. "That day, I was ordered by my master to stay behind to prevent the people in Yuezhou City, who were injured by the beast from relapsing. 3 days later, they had all recovered. I then came to Descending Star City to meet up with my master." Shen Jingheng nodded slowly. "When I was about to reach Descending Star City, I met 2 cultivators who were hunting in the valley. Their legs were injured by the beasts and they could not move. When I was treating their injuries, I was attacked from behind and fainted." Li Chei paused. His originally pale face suddenly flushed red. "I don't know how long I was unconscious. After that, a young female medical cultivator woke me up. She told me that the person who injured me had relapsed and was in seclusion. She told me to take the opportunity to leave and find my master in Descending Star City. She told me not to leave the city again." "Oh." Shen Jingheng was stunned. "That female medical cultivator? She was Lu Qingran whom I mentioned just now." Li Chei suddenly shuddered. His face instantly turned pale. His entire body stiffened. He gritted his teeth so hard that they made cracking sounds. Shen Jingheng hurriedly took out a pill. However, Li Chei's teeth were still tightly clenched. He could not open his mouth to swallow the pill. His eyeballs rolled around. He was still conscious, but he could not control his body at all. Shen Jingheng was a little anxious. He wanted to use spells to give the pill to his disciple. However, they had already tried before. As long as a cultivator above the Aura's core stage used spells on Li Chei, it would only make him feel worse. Meng Qi sighed softly. She could not leave a medical cultivator who was injured and poisoned in order to save others. She gritted her teeth. "Give it to me." Meng Qi reached out to Shen Jingheng. "I am a Zhuji cultivator." Shen Jingheng was stunned. Of course he could see that Meng Qi was only a Zhuji cultivator. However, the other party was not a disciple of Surging Waves Academy, and was also Pei Mufeng's friend. It was really not good to ask the other party for help. Meng Qi made a spell with one hand. She dissolved the pill's medicinal power, and sent it into Li Chei's mouth little by little. After about half an hour, Li Chei finally slowly recovered. His whole body relaxed. "Sorry, sect leader Shen." Meng Qi turned to look at Shen Jingheng. Her expression was calm. "I want to collect spirit stones." Shen Jingheng. "What?" Su Junmo. He knew about Meng Qi's habit. However, on the way from Cool Breeze Valley to here, Meng Qi did not seem to be too obsessed with spirit stones. Those who were cured would more or less receive some compensation based on the severity of the other party's condition. However, if she met ordinary people who were really poor, she would take a peach or a pear as medical expenses. He did not expect that she would start to ask for spirit stones again. "Oh." Shen Jingheng was stunned. He looked at Pei Mufeng again. Then, he quickly took out a spirit stone from his storage bag, and handed it to Meng Qi. "Thank you for your trouble, little friend Meng." That was a 5th grade spirit stone. Actually, it was far less than this many spirit stones to dissolve the pill's medicinal power. Shen Jingheng saw that Meng Qi did not refuse and directly accepted the spirit stone. He was still a little confused. It was not that he should not give her spirit stones. The disciples of the Surging Waves Academy would also receive compensation when they practiced medicine. He just felt that the atmosphere was a little strange. Mengqi was also depressed. She knew that 5th grade spirit stones were actually quite a lot. However, from Chu Tianfeng and Qin Xiuma's point of view, her method of receiving 10 times the amount of spirit stones was quite useful. It was not a problem to bully the future little devil lord. However, Mengqi felt a little guilty about bullying someone like Li Che. Li Che tried his best to open his eyes wide. Although his vision was still foggy, he could hear it clearly. Sure enough, this woman was not Lu Qingran. If it was her, she would definitely not do this. The room suddenly became silent. It was Shen Zhengheng who broke the awkwardness. Little Che, what happened after that? Oh, after that, I asked that fellow Taoist Lu Qingran to leave with me. However, she shook her head and refused. She only told me to leave quickly. Otherwise, when that person came out of seclusion, she would not be able to help me. Li Che continued. I did not want to abandon fellow Taoist Lu and escape alone. The other party was anxious. She had no choice but to hold a knife to her neck and tell me to leave quickly. His face turned red again. His gaze became gentle and shy. I had no choice but to leave alone. When I was about to reach Descending Star City, I fainted because of the cold poison in my body. When I woke up, it was just now. Master. Li Che suddenly stretched out his hand in the direction of his master. You must save that fellow Taoist Lu. She must have been threatened by that evil person. Even so, she still risked her life to save me. Whenever I think of the way she held a knife to her neck and forced me to leave, I feel extremely guilty. Don't worry. Shen Zhengheng said in a low voice. This matter will not be settled so easily. Yes. Li Che replied softly. As he spoke, Mengqi's gaze never left Li Che's back. That formation was indeed similar to the one on his back, but it was not completely the same. To break the formation, one could not use brute force. Later on, when Li Che mentioned Lu Qingran, Mengqi also heard it. This was very normal. Almost everyone who met his senior sister would fall head over heels for her. Furthermore, she had risked her life to save him. If it were him, he would also be very touched. Master. Li Che was silent for a while. Then he asked, is the poison in my body very difficult to deal with? It's the residual shadow grass and the winter plum flower juice. Shen Zhengheng did not hide it from him. However, the other party is very cunning. They have placed a seal on your body. Cultivators above Jindan cannot remove the poison for you. As long as the seal is not removed, your poison will not be removed. Li Che nodded silently. He was Shen Zhengheng's most beloved disciple. Although he was young, he had received all of Shen Zhengheng's teachings. These two poisons were actually not very powerful. There was no antidote. However, one only needed to know the Clear Wind spell to remove the poison. Not to mention his master, any of the Surging Waves Academy's martial brothers who were at the 4th grade of the Clear Breeze technique would be able to dispel the poison for him. The other party had obviously thought of this point. The seal was accurate and ruthless. Foundation establishment medical practitioners could definitely be found in Descending Star City. Among the disciples that the Surging Waves College had brought to Descending Star City, there were a few of them. However, their medical skills were too low. They could not reach the 4th grade of the Clear Wind spell, and could not help him. Also, they did not know if the seal had any other uses. Don't worry, little Che. Shen Zhengheng patted his shoulder. There are countless medical practitioners in Descending Star City. They will definitely find a way. Furthermore, he sighed and said, Xue Lingfeng from the Xue clan is in the same situation as you. The head of the Xue clan will arrive in Descending Star City tomorrow. He will not leave his daughter in the lurch. Yes, Li Che replied softly. I am not worried about my own safety. I am more worried about Taoist Lu from Lu Qingran. I wonder if that evil person has come out of seclusion, and if he will do anything to her. Master. He turned toward Shen Zhengheng's direction. I beg Master to send someone to save Taoist Lu first. My poison is of no importance. Sigh. Shen Zhengheng sighed and patted his disciple's shoulder. Taoist Li, don't worry. Pei Mufeng, who had been silent all this while, finally spoke. Since the few of you were poisoned outside Descending Star City, the Descending Star Pavilion will definitely settle this matter. Please tell me where fellow Taoist Lu Qingran is, and I will send someone to save her. Thank you, Pavilion Master Pei. Li Che faced Pei Mufeng and clasped his hands. I roughly remember the location of that person and Taoist Lu. It's just that I cannot see anything now, so I can only speak. He paused for a while and said, leave from the south gate of Descending Star City, and continue towards Lezhou City for about 100 miles. Head north of the first mountain, and follow the foot of the mountain, until you reach the valley. I'm just not sure if they are still there after I was unconscious for so long. All right. Pei Mufeng nodded his head and immediately sent a message to his disciples. He instructed them to bring someone to find Lu Qingran. Li Che sat quietly on the bed until Pei Mufeng was done. He then clasped his hands and said, thank you, Pavilion Master Pei. It's my duty, Pei Mufeng said calmly. He turned to Meng Qi and asked, how is it? Have you thought of a solution? The key is still the formation. Meng Qi was a little conflicted. She looked at the handsome young man sitting quietly on the bed. Actually, she did not have anything against Li Che. On the contrary, she admired him. Li Che was not only a gentleman and gentle as jade, he was also shockingly talented in medicine. He had become famous at a young age. Later on, at a young age, he was about to become the #1 medical xiu in the southern border. Li Che had saved countless people, and was deeply loved by the xiuzhe and normal people of the southern border. Meng Qi had met him in a famous poison swamp in the southern border. At that time, a small sect beside the southern border's poison swamp was suddenly injured by an unknown poisonous insect. No one in the sect was spared. The poisonous insect's venom was ferocious. The xiuzhe who were stung became stiff like the living dead, and could not move at all. In order to save them, Li Che went deep into the poison swamp to search for poisonous insects. Because he had to understand the venom of the poisonous insect in order to cure them. Meng Qi had gone to the poison swamp to search for medicine, and coincidentally met Li Che, who had been stung by the poisonous insect. However, the poisonous insect had already retreated, and only Li Che was left lying in the swamp. The venom spread and he gradually could not control his body. If Meng Qi had not happened to pass by, Li Che would have disappeared in the poison swamp just like that. Meng Qi had never seen such a poisonous insect. However, she had already formed her core at the time, and her medical skills had reached 5th grade. After she saved Li Che from the poison swamp, she decided to stay there. After being poisoned, Li Che's body was stiff and he could not see. However, he could still hear and barely speak. He was also a medical xiu and a Yuanying xiuzhe. His medical skills were close to Realm 7 of 5th grade. Li Che continuously provided information about the poison to Meng Qi based on his own condition. Just like that, the two of them cooperated and tried to get rid of the poison in his body. The poison was removed like silk. Li Che was the last to regain his vision. Then, on that day, when Meng Qi went out, she saw the notice that the close friend who had betrayed Qin Xiuma was looking for a medical xiu to cure his pregnant wife's strange poison. Meng Qi was deeply attracted by the words, strange poison. She thought that Li Che's poison had been cured anyway. He was a medical xiu, so he could definitely solve the last problem. Therefore, she quickly took the notice and went to find him. When she saw Li Che again later, he had already become her senior martial sister's confidant. Meng Qi did not think much of it. She had always known that senior martial sister Lu was popular with male xiu. When she saw Li Che again, he acted as if he did not know her. Meng Qi also did not take it seriously. Basically, people who saw her senior martial sister would not have any other female xiu in their eyes. However, in her previous life, the young man had always been a gentleman to Lu Qingran. Meng Qi did not know whether he liked her senior martial sister or not, but he really had never crossed the line. Although Li Che was really good to Lu Qingran, Meng Qi stopped thinking and her gaze fell on Li Che's face again. The other party was sitting quietly on the bed with his eyes wide open in a daze. It really looked like the first time they met. Meng Qi raised her eyebrows slightly. Later, She found out that Li Che entered the poison marsh for the small sect in the Southland that was injured by poisonous insects. She also knew that after he cured the poison in her body, he immediately detoxified everyone in that sect. However, when they met in the poison marsh, he did not mention that he came here to look for poisonous insects for someone else. He only said that he was accidentally injured by poisonous insects. He was lying down, unable to move, and was about to be swallowed by the marsh. He did not forget to remind Meng Qi to be careful, and that there might be poisonous insects hibernating around him. He asked her not to take the risk and to leave the poison marsh as soon as possible. A doctor's benevolence was nothing more than that. She wanted to try. Meng Qi exhaled softly. She still wanted to try. She was not the only one who was itching to see a poison method that she had never seen before. The residual shadow grass and cold plum blossom flower juice were not very toxic, but after a long time in the body, it would gradually affect the six senses. Meng Qi could not watch someone like Li Che get hurt because of this. I can try. She took a deep breath and said, "Oh." Shen Jingheng's eyes lit up, as if he had forgotten what happened earlier. "Little friend Meng, do you remember what this array is?" "I don't know." Meng Qi shook her head. "But I have seen similar arrays." Shen Jingheng hesitated for a moment. "Sect Master Shen, why don't you let her try?" Su Junmo suddenly said. From the moment they went to see Shui Lingfeng, he could see that Meng Qi was itching to try. He was afraid that Shen Jingheng would be worried, so he added, "I can guarantee that in terms of array formation in the 3,000 worlds, even those artifact cultivator sects are not much better than Meng Qi." After all, Meng Qi was the strongest person who could use the 4 extreme arrays. Yes. Si Gongxing also nodded and supported him. She was really scared out of her wits by Meng Qi's array. Shen Jingheng was still hesitating, but Li Che said, "Master, why don't you let this fellow Taoist try? I trust Pavilion Master Pei and Brother Su." "Okay." Shen Jingheng made up his mind. "Then I'll have to trouble you." "Yes." Meng Qi nodded. "But I'll charge spirit stones," she said, "and they're not cheap." Meng Qi looked at Shen Jingheng's blank expression and quickly said, "If Sect Master Shen doesn't have enough spirit stones, I can lend them to you first. You can pay me back slowly when you have spirit stones. There's no hurry." Chapter 67. No need. Shen Jingheng paused. "We still have spirit stones." "Master," Li Che also said, "this disciple also has a lot of spirit stones." As the two spoke, they each took out a small brocade pouch from their storage pouches. Li Che fumbled for the pouch and handed it to Meng Qi. Shen Jingheng directly stuffed the brocade pouch into Meng Qi's hands. Meng Qi, Su Junmo and Si Gongxing were stunned. Only Pei Mufeng's expression did not change, as if he would feel that whatever Meng Qi did or said was normal. Meng Qi opened the brocade pouch and looked, then returned one of the pouches. She pondered. Li Che probably didn't like Lu Qingran. The two were probably just friends. When her Shiji was in love with other people, Li Che had never been dissatisfied or jealous. He smiled and gave his blessings every time. And they were just ordinary friends. Meng Qi threw the brocade pouch with fewer spirit stones into her storage pouch. Then Shen Jingheng said to Li Che, "I still don't know what this formation is. I have to look at it again." Shen Jingheng nodded. "Then I'll have to trouble you, little friend Meng." He knew that some Xiozha valued the inheritances of their sects very much, and could not let outsiders know. Shen Jingheng knew Su Junmo. Although this person came from the Yao world, he had spent more time in the 3,000 worlds, and was on good terms with many large sections. If he said that Meng Qi was strong in formations, then she must be strong. It was said that the formation inheritances of the Yao world were far better than those of the 3,000 worlds. Shen Jingheng looked deeply at his disciple again, and without waiting for Meng Qi to ask, he left the room to avoid arousing suspicion. Pei Mufeng looked at Meng Qi and said in a low voice, "I'll be right outside the door." Then he was the second to turn and leave. When Shen Jingheng left, he also took the disciples of Surging Waves College with him. The room door opened and closed, and the room became quiet again. Li Che couldn't see, but he still sat calmly on the bed. Su Junmo and Si Gongxing sat at the only table in the room. Xing rested his chin on his hand and looked at Meng Qi. Do you think? She lowered her voice and leaned toward Su Junmo. Should we go out too? No. Su Junmo's face darkened. We have to protect Meng Qi here. Most importantly, Meng Qi was very likely to be his master's beloved. Li Che was young and handsome. His looks were not bad. He couldn't leave Meng Qi alone in a room with such a bare-chested young man. If his lord found out, Su Junmo could not help but shudder. As he thought about it, he looked up at Meng Qi and the others. Li Che's clean white unlined shirt had been taken off, and it was piled up at his waist, revealing his back that did not have a trace of excess fat, and did not look thin and weak. Bidage. The handsome and refined young man's long hair was loose, and his black hair contrasted with his white skin. In addition, he looked a little lost and helpless because he could not see after being poisoned. It did look a little tempting. No, Su Junmo repeated firmly. You and I have to stay here. We can't let them be alone. Xing raised her eyebrows and looked at Meng Qi with her chin on her hand. She was reaching out and drawing the array on Li Che's back from a short distance away. The light shone on the side of her face, making her long eyelashes seem to be coated with a soft layer of light. Her originally fair skin now looked even more translucent and clean. Meng Qi is so beautiful. Xing changed her posture. He's so powerful. He looks even better when he's focused. Sigh. She sighed softly and muttered. It's a pity that he's taken. Su Junmo. He should chase this scourge, Xing, out of the house. Is Meng Qi in a difficult position? Xing knocked on the table and reminded Su Junmo. She and Su Junmo looked at each other, then turned to look at Meng Qi helplessly. He had his head lowered, and was beginning to pace around the room. They were both from the Fox clan, and had heard of arrays for a long time. However, they knew nothing about arrays and could not help at this time. Is there any way to help Meng Qi? Xing looked at him for a while and asked. Haven't you been following the Demon Lord all this time? The Demon Lord's array knowledge is unprecedented. Can you ask him to help Meng Qi? Su Junmo. He wanted to, but who would dare to make such a request of that Demon Lord? Su Junmo's expression suddenly froze, and he quickly reached into his storage bag. Help me protect the array. He held a jade slip and quickly said to Xing. He did not have time to explain to Xing and decisively closed his eyes. When Meng Qi circled the room for the 10th time, he already had some ideas. She recalled almost all the arrays that her master had taught her in detail. Compared to the exquisite small arrays on Li Che's back, what she had learned was actually much more complicated. However, Meng Qi learning arrays was not the same as the weapon cultivators from the 3,000 Worlds learning arrays. It was just like when medical cultivators first learned medical skills, they would start from the simplest and most basic. The weapon cultivators from the 3,000 Worlds who were the best at arrays would also start from the simplest foundation. It was said that they would even learn the different lines in arrays, the different functions of the materials that made up the arrays, and all kinds of the most basic and simple small arrays. It was said that weapon cultivators not only had to learn arrays, but also had to learn how to dismantle arrays. That was how changing arrays and some new arrays came about. However, Meng Qi had never learned any of these. Her master had always said, you seem to be able to use this. Then he would directly teach her the array that he felt Meng Qi could use. They skipped all the basics and directly taught her how to use it. Meng Qi's arrays were set after set. If she had to dismantle the arrays herself and study the functions and principles of the unknown arrays, she would not be very good at it. However, she knew too many arrays and too many of them. Although she did not know what the array in front of her was, it was the first time she saw it from Lingfeng, and then from Li Che. Meng Qi's mind was filled with it the entire night. She more or less figured out something. Meng Qi. Just as Meng Qi was about to try out her idea after circling the room for the 12th time, Meng Qi suddenly stopped. Su Junmo called out to her. Meng Qi turned to look at him. Su Junmo's expression was strange, and his gaze was complicated. He looked at Meng Qi with such a strange gaze, and when he spoke, it was as if his soul had left his body. If you can't make up your mind, do you want to find a book related to arrays to read? Meng Qi's eyes lit up. Where to? Heavens beyond heaven. Su Junmo nodded affirmatively. You should be able to find it there. I already looked for it when I went to heavens beyond heaven last time. Meng Qi said, weapon cultivators have been on the decline for thousands of years, and it will only take a few hundred years for them to rise again. Furthermore, weapon cultivators should value their sex inheritance more. Whether it's the Cloud Immortal Pavilion or Heavens Beyond Heaven, there are no books that specialize in arrays. After Meng Qi left Huajiang Mansion, she went to Heavens Beyond Heaven and Cloud Immortal Pavilion to search, but there were no books that specialize in arrays. Su Junmo pondered for a moment. I know that there's a small shop in Heavens Beyond Heaven that specializes in all kinds of books from the three realms, such as the unofficial history of the three realms, the gossip and legends of the powerful seniors, and all kinds of strange spells. There might be some there. Meng Qi looked at Su Junmo suspiciously. Her heart suddenly moved. It was said that whether it was the demon realm or the devil realm, the inheritance of arrays far surpassed that of the three realms. Su Junmo came from the demon realm. Perhaps he would know something. Also, she vaguely remembered seeing her master after she got drunk in Burnt City. It was also at Heavens Beyond Heaven. She originally thought that it was a beautiful dream after she got drunk, because she was thinking about it. However, when she went to Heavens Beyond Heaven again, they told her that there was indeed the cloud waterfall that she had seen in her dream. Meng Qi's eyes flashed. Outside Huajiang Mansion, the mysterious man's voice suddenly sounded. It was the array that she absolutely could not complete with her ability at that time. Also, Chu Tianfeng once showed her the spell that recorded the heavenly demon White Tiger True Lord's moves. The legendary White Tiger True Lord's appearance was exactly the same as her master's. Where is that small shop? Meng Qi looked at Su Junmo with burning eyes and asked. In the northwest corner of Heavens Beyond Heaven. Su Junmo said hesitantly, but I can't guarantee it. I only said that it might be there. However, we have no other choice now. Meng Qi, you should go and try your luck. Okay. Meng Qi agreed. She took out her Heavens Beyond jade slip and entered the Heavens Beyond without hesitation. Su Junmo sighed and wiped his sweat. Fortunately, Meng Qi trusts me. Si Kongxing pursed his lips. What are you playing at? I can't tell you. Su Junmo's expression suddenly became serious. But he raised his head and looked forward. His eyes were filled with disbelief and relief as I expected. Don't say that I didn't remind you. In the future, be more respectful to Meng Qiqi. Be more polite. Don't always pester her. Su Junmo sighed softly and murmured. Fortunately, I'm smart. I've always been on Meng Qi's side. But it's normal. To be honest, I quite like this little girl. She's generous, kind, and determined. What are you murmuring about? Si Kongxing was puzzled. Nothing. Su Junmo suddenly came back to his senses. In short, protect Meng Qi well. You won't be at a disadvantage if you follow her. The night of the 3,000 worlds didn't seem to affect Heavens Beyond Heaven. Night indeed shrouded this bustling city. The 7 floating islands in the sky became clearer and bigger in the night sky. The whole city was brightly lit. Meng Qi went directly to the North City according to Su Junmo's instructions. She walked out of the teleportation array and walked along the city wall all the way to the northwest corner. This side was slightly more secluded. Many shops even had strange signboards. Just by looking at the shop's name, one couldn't even tell what they were selling. The closer she got to the northwest corner, the quieter the surroundings became. When she arrived at the shop that Su Junmo mentioned, it was located at the outermost door of the northwest corner. It was deserted, and there wasn't even a shop name on the door. It looked particularly desolate. The small shop was open. Meng Qi looked up at the empty signboard, took a deep breath and stepped in. As soon as she entered, her eyes suddenly brightened. The shop was not as desolate and inconspicuous as the entrance. The room was very spacious. Countless bookshelves went directly from the ground to the roof. Countless bamboo slips and jade slips were placed on them. However, there was no classification on the bookshelves. The bamboo slips and jade slips were all piled together. Meng Qi looked at the rows of bookshelves. After walking past several rows of bookshelves, She was surprised to find something. It looked like a small shop with only one floor from the outside, but it was a completely different world inside. Right in front of her, there was a staircase that led to the second floor. Mengqi looked up. The spiral staircase went straight to the sky. There seemed to be no end to it. What do you need, fellow Taoist? An old voice suddenly sounded behind Mengqi. She quickly turned around. An old man with white hair and a youthful face was standing there with a smile. Mengqi didn't know if it was an illusion, but the old man smiled and looked at her up and down for a while. Then he nodded with a smile. Mengqi, what kind of books do you need? The old man said as he walked to Mengqi. My longevity library is all-inclusive. There are all kinds of books in the 3 realms that you can't imagine. As he spoke, he reached out and took a bamboo slip from the bookshelf in front of Mengqi. It records all kinds of legends and history. Of course, if you're lucky, there are also cultivation insights and even spells left behind by the seniors. For example, this. As he spoke, he handed the bamboo slip in his hand to Mengqi. The warm bamboo slip made Mengqi feel as if she had touched a real object. The old man waved his sleeve, and a clear light spread out from the bamboo slip. He raised his chin slightly at Mengqi. You can read it now. Huh. Mengqi held the bamboo slip curiously. Didn't the things in the outer heavens not have real objects? They couldn't directly use the things they bought here, including the bamboo slip that Sister Shui gave her. Mengqi could only read it after she left the outer heavens and went to the post house to get the real object. Was this heaven and earth library so powerful? She subconsciously held the bamboo slip, and a trace of spiritual energy fell on it. The contents of the bamboo slip were clearly imprinted in her mind. Mengqi looked at the words on the top of the bamboo slip in surprise. The biography of the heavenly demon White Tiger Immortal. What is this? She read 10 lines at a time and quickly scanned it. It turned out that it was a record of the life stories of the White Tiger Immortal for tens of thousands of years. In addition to his invincible and glorious battle record, the love history of every White Tiger Immortal was recorded. Mengqi blinked and struggled for a moment, but she still quickly read it. Cultivators read very fast, unless it was a cultivation notebook that needed to be carefully analyzed, or some bamboo slips that recorded medical notes, medicinal properties of herbs, and so on, which needed to be read slowly. Mengqi could finish reading a few volumes of this kind of content that was similar to an unofficial biography in half an hour. She finished reading 2 volumes in a trance. They were all about the White Tiger Immortal from tens of thousands of years ago. Mengqi withdrew her spiritual consciousness from the bamboo slip and looked at the old man who was still looking at her with a smile. She said somewhat embarrassedly, "Senior, I'm sorry. I was distracted." "It's okay." The old man chuckled. "What books do you need? You can tell me. There are too many books here. It'll be easier for me to help you find them. Do you have any introductory books on Dharma arrays?" asked Mengqi. "Oh." The old man pondered for a moment and nodded. "Yes, please wait a moment." With that said, he turned around and slowly walked up the stairs. Mengqi looked at the old man's back. He was dressed in a gray robe. Although he looked rather old, he was still very tall. She guessed that he would take a while to find her, so she could not help but hold the bamboo slip and start reading again. In the demon realm, white tigers were royalty among the heaven demons. It was said that there were very few white tigers in the world. Even so, they were still invincible in the demon realm. They were just too powerful. They were so powerful that very few heaven demon royals in the demon realm could catch their attention. Therefore, the successive White Tiger Immortal often had to wait for 1,000 years before he could find a Tao companion who was willing to devote his heart to them. However, as long as they found a Tao companion, they would be faithful to one another and would never betray them. Mengqi was unwittingly fascinated by the book until the old man's voice sounded beside her again. Little friend? Sorry." She came back to her senses and blushed. "I was too engrossed." Chapter 68. It's all right. The old man handed over a bamboo slip with a smile. "This is the book on formations that you need." "Thank you, Senior." Meng Qi quickly bowed to him and respectfully took the bamboo slip with both hands. How many spirit stones do I need? I don't accept spirit stones here. The old man said cheerfully, I only accept books in exchange for books. You'll need to take out books that I don't have here to exchange. Ha! Meng Qi was a little surprised. But if I have it here, you should have it too. She held the bamboo slip in her hand hesitantly, and did not check it immediately. Meng Qi still had the medical experience that Elder Yan Mingfeng had given her. However, without Elder Yan's permission, she would definitely not exchange it. Senior. Meng Qi looked at the bamboo slip in her hand reluctantly, and respectfully returned it to the old man with both hands. She wanted it very much, but Meng Qi did not think that she could take out a book of equivalent value to the bamboo slip that recorded the basics of formations. I don't have any books of equivalent value to exchange now. I'll have to trouble you, senior. You don't have to worry too much. The old man smiled. The value of books is not constant with spirit stones. I don't actually sell books here. You can give me new things that I don't have here in exchange for a certain amount of spirit points. Ha! Meng Qi heard of this for the first time. Senior, what are spirit points? You can treat it as something that you can use here. The old man smiled. You've just arrived at Outland not long ago, right? In fact, other than my shop, there are many places in Outland where you can use spirit points to exchange for things. Is that so? Meng Qi nodded thoughtfully. With spirit points, you can come here to borrow books, but you can't take them away. The old man continued. As for the value of the things that you use to exchange for spirit points, Outland has its own set of evaluation standards. You might as well give it a try. Okay. Meng Qi was moved. When she was free, she would also record some of her medical experience that she encountered. Meng Qi thought for a moment, then took out a bamboo slip and handed it to the old man. It recorded the method of treating those injured by the divine devouring vines that had been given to Xue Qingxian previously. Meng Qi watched as the old man took the bamboo slip. There seemed to be a faint light flashing in the old man's hand, and then the bamboo slip lit up with a faint light. She had already discovered that the Heaven and Earth book room was somewhat different from other places in Sky Beyond Heaven. This mysterious shopkeeper could even skip the laws of the Outland and read the contents recorded on the bamboo slips. Meng Qi's gaze swept across the entire study room. The study room was so tall that the ceiling could not be seen. There were so many bamboo slips and jade slips. How many years must it have taken to accumulate so much? She looked at the old man again with some admiration. The old man just happened to return the bamboo slip to her. Young friend, the content on the bamboo slip is indeed something that I don't have here. As he spoke, he opened his other hand, revealing a bamboo slip. The old man put the bamboo slip into his sleeve and said to Meng Qi, I can give you 30 spirit points. Thank you, senior. Meng Qi's tone became even more respectful. May I ask how many spirit points are needed to read the book on Dharma arrays? You can borrow a book at 10 spirit points, the old man said. Ha! Meng Qi was very surprised. Is it so cheap? As if he had guessed her thoughts, the old man stretched out his hand and stroked his beard again. He said with a smile, Do you think it's cheap? He looked around with a smile. Just now, I said that the value of books should not be measured by spirit points. It should be measured by how many people need it, or how many people read it. The more people read the books here, the more valuable they are. Thank you, senior. Meng Qi cupped her hands at the old man. In addition, if someone pays spiritual points to borrow Little Friend's book, each time they borrow it, they will give Little Friend 3 spiritual points. The old man continued. If Little Friend has similar books in the future, you might as well send them to me. Yes, Meng Qi responded. She took the bamboo scroll on Dharma arrays from the old man's hand, and injected her spirit qi into it. Sure enough, she could read the contents on it. Meng Qi had never really learned Dharma arrays before. She spent the time it took for an incense stick to burn and memorized the contents on it. Li Che and the others were still waiting for her, so she could not stay here for too long. Meng Qi returned the bamboo scroll to the old man, and was about to say goodbye to him. The old man handed her another bamboo scroll and said with a smile, I think you might need another book. Thank you, senior. Meng Qi took the bamboo scroll without hesitation. She carefully looked at the bamboo scroll. Compared to the warm and yellow bamboo scroll just now, this one looked much newer. She seemed to be able to see the fresh green color on the bamboo branch and smell a faint fragrance. Meng Qi had just injected her spirit qi into the bamboo scroll when she could not help but exclaim, "Isn't this?" She held the bamboo scroll tightly and looked up at the old man. This bamboo scroll recorded a few common Dharma arrays. Although there were a few types, it was actually a set of Dharma arrays and 2 variations derived from this set of Dharma arrays. "What's wrong?" The old man smiled and said, "I just happened to obtain this set of Dharma arrays a few days ago. I wonder if it can help you?" "Thank you, Senior." Meng Qi's eyes flashed slightly, and she bowed to the ground. She did not know who the old man was. The more she understood about the outer heavens, the more powerful and mysterious she would feel. However, what was recorded on this bamboo scroll was the Dharma arrays on Li Che and Shui Lingfeng's bodies. The 4 seasons, 4 commands array? Meng Qi focused again, and began to study this set of Dharma arrays. In addition to the 4 Dharma arrays and the method to set up the 4 seasons, 4 commands array, at the end of the bamboo scroll, there should be a note left by the owner of this bamboo scroll. A strange and vulgar skill that only deceives the ears. Meng Qi was speechless. This person is so arrogant. One had to know that the 4 seasons, 4 commands array was troublesome for the 2 great medical cultivation sects in the Trichiliocosm. Is it that simple in this person's eyes? She skipped that line of words and turned her gaze back to the Dharma arrays. In the entire set of Dharma arrays, only the core Dharma arrays were useful. The beautiful flowers around the Dharma arrays were only used to confuse people. If people who did not understand the Dharma arrays put all their attention on the flowers, they would be fooled. The 4 seasons, 4 commands array looked different, but in fact, they all had the same function. Simply put, the 4 seasons, 4 commands array was named after the fact that it could change the seasons and create new seasons. However, the Dharma arrays themselves were not that powerful. They could only make the people trapped by the Dharma arrays think that they were in different seasons. That was why the Shui clan and Li Che's master used the detoxification technique on the 2 of them, but it made the poison in their bodies worse. In fact, according to the explanation of the 4 seasons, 4 commands array on the bamboo scroll, if they did not care about their disciples' feelings and continued to use the detoxification technique by force, they would find that the poison in the 2 of them was still being detoxified. However, the Shui clan and Surging Waves Academy probably just tested it and found that the 2 of them were more poisoned and in more pain, so they did not dare to make a move. Meng Qi frowned slightly. Then the question now was, why did the Shui clan and Surging Waves Academy think that only cultivators with Jindan cultivation and below could detoxify Li Che and Shui Lingfeng? She shook her head and looked at the 4 seasons, 4 commands array. Meng Qi narrowed her eyes slightly. She understood. Her gaze swept over one of the 4 seasons, 4 commands array. To activate this Dharma array, it was not like she thought at all that the flowers needed to absorb spirit energy from Li Che and the others to activate the Dharma arrays. This Dharma array relied on external spirit energy to activate. In other words, if a Zhuji cultivator's cultivation was too low, even if they used the technique on Li Che and the others, they would not be able to activate the 4 seasons, 4 commands array. So of course they would not be hallucinating. After understanding the entire matter, Meng Qi did not know whether to laugh or cry. The person who had poisoned them had actually used the residual shadow grass and cold plum blossom juice. It was very easy to detoxify this poison. Using the detoxification technique, it could be easily detoxified. Large medical sects like the Shui clan and Surging Waves Academy had many cultivators who were good at detoxification. Perhaps any one of the cultivators who had come to Descending Star City to participate in the medical cultivator assembly could detoxify these 2 poisons. So the person who had poisoned them had drawn the 4 seasons, 4 commands array on Li Che and Shui Lingfeng's backs, so that the elders of the 2 people would not dare to act rashly even if they knew how to detoxify them. As for why they thought Zhuji cultivators could detoxify them, that was probably due to the deliberate guidance of the person who had poisoned them. Mengqi did not know whether to laugh or cry as she shook her head. She had never thought that the thing that had made the Shui clan and Surging Waves Academy so helpless was actually an illusion. She kept the bamboo scroll and returned it to the old man. "Little friend, do you understand?" the old man asked with a smile. "Yes." Mengqi nodded. "Thank you for your guidance, elder." "Little friend, you have spent 20 spiritual points. If you need anything in the future, you are welcome to come to my Heaven and Earth book house anytime." The old man smiled. "I shall not disturb you any further. I shall take my leave." Mengqi bid farewell to the old man respectfully. She walked out of the Heaven and Earth book house and turned back to look. Under the night sky, there was still the same nameless signboard. It was still a small and inconspicuous shop located in the northwest corner of Heaven's Beyond City. Who would have thought that the moment she stepped through the door, there would be another world inside? Mengqi memorized the location of the Heaven and Earth book house seriously. Then, she turned and walked towards the teleportation array at the city gate. Moments after she left, a white figure flashed in the Heaven and Earth book house. A handsome man in a white robe appeared on the stairs of the third floor of the book house. He casually pulled out a bamboo scroll from the bookshelf beside him. He did not even look at it before putting it back. The man in the white robe moved quickly. In a short while he had pulled out the bamboo scroll 70 to 80 times. The old man who was arranging the bamboo scrolls on the first floor finally raised his head and looked at him. "What are you doing? She's very stupid." The man in the white robe said, "She's amazed by the 4 seasons 4 commands formation. She'll definitely come here many times in the future." As he spoke, he pulled out the bamboo scroll and threw it back many times. "Why don't you just give her endless spiritual points?" The old man could not help but roll his eyes. The man in the white robe's hand paused. Then, he continued to pull out the bamboo scroll as if nothing had happened. "How can I break the rules set by the ancestor for a little foundation establishment cultivator?" he said. "I'm no exception." "Heh." The old man chuckled and turned to continue arranging the bookshelf. "Rules." He reached out and stroked the bamboo scrolls. "What are rules?" His gaze drifted into the distance. Are they the heavenly Tao of the 3,000 worlds? Or are they the laws of the 9 heavens of the demon realm? Or are they the rules of the 12 great skyscrapers of the demon realm? The man in the white robe's hand paused. The old man smiled and continued. "But it doesn't matter. It's rare for a well-behaved, polite, intelligent, and blushing little girl to accompany me to talk in red. If you want to help her save up, then help her. Slowly save up spiritual points for her. If she comes to accompany me more, your third grandfather will be happy too." As he spoke, he smiled and waved his hand. "Take your time. I'll go make some tea and rest." The man in the white robe slowly loosened his grip on the bamboo scroll and clenched it again. He watched the old man's back disappear behind the bookshelf and looked down at the bamboo scroll in his hand. It was the scroll that Mengqi had just given to the old man to exchange for spiritual points. Every time someone borrowed it, they would be given 3 spiritual points. Only a few people in the Outland knew about the use of spiritual points. In addition to being able to browse books in the famous Heaven and Earth book house in the 3 realms, they could also exchange for some rare things. For example, if one wanted to own their own sex shop on the 2 floating islands in the Outland, they would need to exchange spiritual points. In addition, they could also exchange for some unique opportunities in the Outland. For example, the mountain entry tokens that the major sects had bid for in the Heaven class auction. If one had enough spiritual points, they could directly exchange for the mountain entry token without participating in the auction. Therefore, spiritual points were equivalent to the existence of the Outland, which was higher than spirit stones. Not to mention the cultivators who had just entered the Outland. Even the old people here did not know much. Most of the people in the 3 realms who knew about spiritual points were the leaders of the major sections, or the most outstanding and powerful rogue cultivators. However, even they rarely knew the location of the Heaven and Earth book house. The man in the white robe seemed to pause for a moment because of the old man's words. However, he quickly took out the bamboo scroll again and threw it back. After struggling for almost a month, she barely managed to detoxify the jackdaw grass. The progress was too slow. Moreover, even something like the Shui family's hidden scriptures tower could attract her. What was so good about the Wind Alliance? The bigger the sect in the three realms, the more people's hearts wavered. Few could cultivate wholeheartedly. Meng Qi should come to the Heaven and Earth Book House a few more times. If she saw more, she would not be distracted by those things that were simply not mainstream. Meng Qi slowly opened her eyes. Xikong Xing immediately came over. Meng Qi, how is it? She stood up and nodded. I have an idea. Indeed, after knowing the method of setting up the 4 seasons 4 commands formation and the core of the formation, this formation was indeed quite simple and fancy to crack. As soon as this idea popped up, Meng Qi felt a little ashamed. Had she been led astray by the person who wrote the 4 seasons 4 commands formation? She clearly thought that the person who set up the formation was ingenious and brilliant. Great! Xikong Xing cheered from the bottom of her heart. Su Junmo still looked at Meng Qi with a strange expression. He was not surprised that Meng Qi could find a way. His lord even told her about the Heaven and Earth Book House directly, which was basically equivalent to him directly helping Meng Qi. As long as she was not an idiot, she would definitely find a way. Meng Qi smiled at Xikong Xing, and her gaze fell on Su Junmo's face. She nodded gently at him, as if thanking him for his guidance, but also as if she was tacitly exchanging secrets with him. Su Junmo's heart thumped. Did Meng Qi know something? In fact, he had always felt that it was strange. His lord asked him to investigate Meng Qi, which was also to protect her in disguise. Then he never showed up directly for anything and always let him be the middleman. It was as if his lord was hiding something. Meng Qi also never mentioned anything about his lord and the demon realm. If they didn't say anything, Su Junmo didn't dare to mention it either. But he didn't believe that Meng Qi, who even knew the 4 extremes formation, didn't know anything. So now did Meng Qi know something? He was so curious. Su Junmo's heart felt like it was being scratched by a cat. He wanted to ask, he wanted to know. He wanted to gossip. He watched Meng Qi walk towards Li Che, and barely suppressed the fire of gossip burning in his chest. Fellow Daoist Li, Meng Qi said to him. It's faster for your master to detoxify the poison in your body. It may be more painful in a while, so please bear with it. Okay. Li Che nodded. He still couldn't see clearly, so he could only follow the voice and turn in the direction of Meng Qi. The young man's face was still a little sickly pale, and there was a faint green color under his eyes, but there wasn't much fear on his face. Thank you, fellow Daoist Meng. Meng Qi shook her head and went outside to invite Shen Jingheng in again. She was relieved. Since she knew about the 4 seasons 4 commands formation, she didn't need to detoxify Li Che herself. Then Meng Qi first took out the brocade pouch containing spirit stones that she had received before, and returned it to Shen Jingheng. Fellow Daoist Meng, this is... Shen Jingheng looked at Meng Qi in surprise and doubt. Even you can't cure little Che's poison? No. Meng Qi shook her head and explained. The poison in fellow Daoist Li's body is the 4 seasons 4 commands formation. She explained the whole matter and finally said, so the sect master can detoxify the poison in your disciple's body by himself. I didn't do anything, so I naturally can't accept 2 more rooms. YQXSW. To be honest, Meng Qi was relieved. She didn't want to accept more spirit stones from a medical cultivator like Li Che, so it couldn't be better now that she didn't need to do it herself. I see. Shen Jingheng nodded slowly. He saw that Meng Qi even knew the name of the formation, and she was a friend that Pei Mufeng valued very much. Even Su Junmo, a heavenly demon aristocrat from the demon realm, admired her formation skills and said that she was second to none in the 3,000 worlds. Shen Jingheng no longer had any doubts. He turned to Li Che and said, Little Che, bear with it for a moment. Shen Jingheng waved his hand and a small golden medicine cauldron appeared beside him, floating in midair. Meng Qi took a few steps back and looked at the golden medicine cauldron. This was also one of the life-bound magic treasures that medical cultivators liked to refine. Previously, it was Xue Qingshuan's silver needles, and now it was Shen Jingheng's medicine cauldron. She remembered that Li Che's life-bound magic treasure was also a medicine cauldron, and the Surging Waves Academy's research on the refinement of spirit herbs was quite famous in the 3,000 worlds. Shen Jingheng lowered his hands and made a hand seal. A clear light flashed, and his life-bound magic treasure, the golden medicine cauldron, also flashed with a faint light. The light disappeared into Li Chei's body. The young man suddenly gritted his teeth, and sweat instantly fell down. Shen Jingheng gritted his teeth and chose to believe in Meng Qi. He reached out and pressed his hand on his disciple's head, and the small cauldron swayed and circled around Li Chei. On Li Chei's forehead, large beads of sweat rolled down uncontrollably. His master was already a spirit-severing stage cultivator, and his spirit energy was surging and powerful. As soon as it entered his body, the 4 seasons 4 commands formation operated wildly. Li Chei only felt as if he was under 10,000-year-old ice, and his entire body was about to be frozen. His limbs and bones were even more painful from the cold. He desperately gritted his teeth and endured the pain. After half an hour, Shen Jingheng withdrew his hand from Li Chei's head. Li Chei's entire body seemed to be soaked in sweat, but the formation on his back had disappeared without a trace. "Thank you, young friend Meng." Shen Jingheng finally breathed a sigh of relief, and turned to look at Meng Qi and said sincerely, "Young friend, you have such achievements at such a young age, your future will be limitless." He pondered for a moment, and took out a bamboo slip from his storage bag. "Young friend, you didn't hide anything and told us the solution to the 4 seasons 4 commands formation. Your breadth of mind is really admirable. Although the Surging Waves College is nothing among the medical cultivation sects in the Trichiliocosm, it is still a little famous in refining elixirs. This is the refining method of a unique elixir in the sect. It is to thank young friend for selflessly sharing the 4 seasons 4 commands formation, and saving my disciple." As Shen Jingheng spoke, he stuffed the bamboo slip into Meng Qi's hand. "Young friend, please don't refuse, please accept it." Chapter 69. Thank you. Meng Qi hesitated for a moment before accepting the pill formula that Shen Jingheng gave her. She took out a new bamboo scroll, and drew the diagram of the 4 seasons 4 commands formation. Then she handed it to Shen Jingheng with both hands. "This is the complete diagram of the formation on your disciple's back. Each formation looks different, but it's actually more or less the same. It's easier to confuse people, but it's actually not that powerful." Meng Qi subconsciously used the person's evaluation of the 4 seasons 4 commands formation. "Okay." Shen Jingheng also put away the bamboo scroll. This was not a special thing for medical cultivators like them. The original intention of the Medical Cultivators Assembly was to promote the exchange of medical cultivators in the 3,000 worlds and the 4 realms, so as to prevent any sect from suffering any mishaps and losing its inheritance. Of course, every sect would still have its own inheritance. In fact, in the current 3,000 worlds, sword cultivators and spell cultivators valued the inheritance of their own sects more. Medical cultivators' ability to protect themselves was weak. After experiencing several catastrophes, some sect leaders had become more open-minded. For example, Shen Jingheng, who gave away the pill formulas of his sect as he pleased, did not feel any heartache. "Rest well, sect leader Shen. Goodbye." Meng Qi nodded at him and walked out of the door with Su Zhenmo and Xing. "It's finally done." Walking out of the door, Xing stretched her body. She looked up at the sky. At this time, the sun had just risen, and the eastern sky was already bright. Meng Qi imitated her and stretched her shoulders. "Thank you for your hard work today, Xing." Her gaze shifted, and she looked at Su Zhenmo with a faint smile. "And Brother Su," Meng Qi said and bowed to him. "Today's harvest is huge. I'm satisfied." Su Zhenmo. Why did he feel a little panicked? Why did the way Meng Qi looked at him give him goosebumps? Also, why did Meng Qi call him Brother Su? She had always called him by his name. Could it be Meng Qi's smiling face made Xing go up to her and hold her arm? She asked curiously in a low voice, "So what's in the Outland? Why are you so happy?" Meng Qi smiled but didn't say anything. He tilted his head and looked at Su Zhenmo. "Can I tell you?" Say what?" Su Zhenmo almost bit his tongue. "What are you trying to say?" Meng Qi pursed her lips and chuckled. Her appearance was elegant, and she looked like a 17 or 18-year-old girl. In fact, she still had the childishness of a young girl. Usually Meng-Chi was calm and collected, which made Su Junmo often forget her age and cultivation level. Now Meng-Chi was smiling sweetly. The young girl stood in the middle of the courtyard, the rays of the morning sun shining on her body, coating her elegant little face with a layer of soft light. Even her smile seemed to be mixed with honey, revealing a rare shyness. Then let's not talk about it. Meng-Chi smiled sweetly and said to Si Kongxing, when Brother Su agrees to let me talk about it, I'll tell you first. Okay. Si Kongxing pursed her lips and glared at Su Junmo with dissatisfaction. Su Junmo. He didn't understand either. His lord cared about this Meng-Chi. Why did he have to pass the message through him? His lord was the true master of the art of array formations. Why didn't he teach Meng-Chi himself? Why did he ask him to lead Meng-Chi to the third elder's library on the heaven and earth tree? Moreover, he specifically told him not to mention his lord in front of Meng-Chi. Also, Meng-Chi didn't seem to have mentioned his lord in front of him. But when she went to the third elder's library, she became shy. Su Junmo was at a loss. Meng-Chi couldn't have become like this because of the third elder, right? As a heavenly demon Arctic fox, Su Junmo had never had a lover, but he had seen a lot. The third elder had a library full of unofficial history, gossip, and biographies of the powerful figures of the demon realm since ancient times. He loved it when he was a child. Damn. Su Junmo couldn't understand. What was going on between Meng-Chi and his lord? Why did he vaguely feel that he seemed to have been tricked? While Su Junmo was distracted, Meng-Chi and Si Kongxing had already walked away hand in hand. Pei Mufeng stood on the other side of her and whispered to her as they walked. So Li Che's poison isn't difficult to cure? Pei Mufeng muttered. According to what you said, the person who poisoned us is just using a smokescreen to confuse everyone. It's not very powerful. Not necessarily. Meng-Chi said. He knows the Four Seasons 4 commands formation, and he might know other formations. Using this method to poison us, he's targeting the medical cultivators who come to Descending Star City. She paused and looked up at Pei Mufeng. You have to be careful. Yes. Pei Mufeng nodded. I feel that this person did it on purpose. Si Kongxing said. Think about it. Descending Star City is going to hold a medical cultivator assembly. The top medical cultivators of the four realms, and all the major sects will gather. But they can't do anything to a few poison cultivators. When this news spreads, what will people think of these sects? Meng-Chi and Pei Mufeng looked at each other and didn't say anything. Si Kongxing continued. Then he'll appear in time. Didn't Meng-Chi say that the formation won't be activated if those who are below the level of Zhuji use spells to cure the poison? Her eyes brightened. When the time comes, he'll ask a Zhuji to cure Xue Lingfeng and the others in front of so many medical cultivators. Tease. Si Kongxing said. Then the faces of all the major medical cultivator sects in the four realms will be slapped. This person doesn't seem to want to do anything evil, but he's definitely here to cause trouble. Miss Sikong's analysis is very logical. Pei Mufeng said. Yes. Meng-Chi also nodded vigorously. She couldn't think of such an idea at all. Hearing Si Kongxing's words, she felt that it was very logical. Si Kongxing laughed happily. Right? So this person might be Pavilion Master Pei's enemy, or... Her eyes spun. A Xiuzha who wasn't invited to the medical cultivator assembly is unhappy and purposely causing trouble. Yes. Meng-Chi nodded again. Xing, you're so good. Si Kongxing reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Of course, this is only my guess. Pavilion Master Pei will probably have to send people to investigate the exact situation. Don't affect the medical cultivator assembly. Other than that, Su Junmo finally caught up. Other than slapping the faces of the major medical cultivator sects, this person can also build his own reputation. When Descending Star City holds the medical cultivator assembly, other than the major sects, there will also be many roaming Xiuzha who don't belong to any sects, and even Xiuzha who want to join other sections. If he wants to gather a group of medical cultivators and build a new sect, This is definitely a very good opportunity. Yes. Xing nodded. Take the opportunity to rise to the top. I'm just curious about one thing. Su Junmo frowned. How can he be so sure that no one will be able to see through the array and ruin his plan? In the 3,000 worlds, most of the array legacies were lost 10,000 years ago. There are very few arrays that have been passed down. Pei Mufeng said, my master has a close friend who is a weapon cultivator. According to him, their sex arrays are too lacking. It's probably impossible to recreate the glory of the ancient weapon cultivators. Yes. When it came to serious matters, Su Junmo also became serious. Even in the Yao world, there are no complete ancient array legacies. There are some in the Mo world. Therefore, for the past 10,000 years, no matter if it's Yao, humans, or Mo, the three worlds are filled with yearning to explore the Starfall Sea. It's said that if we can find all the jade scrolls and bamboo scrolls left behind by the great beings who died in the Starfall Sea, many ancient legacies can be recreated. Mengqi listened with longing. It wasn't just arrays. There were also many medical legacies that had been lost. When would she be able to enter the Starfall Sea? We're here. The four of them chatted and soon arrived at the entrance of Rosy Lane. Pei Mufeng stopped, and his gaze fell on Mengqi's face. There are 2 more days until the medical cultivator assembly. Don't run around during these 2 days. That person is hiding in the dark. We don't know when he will attack again. He paused and said, be careful. Okay. Mengqi nodded. Pei Mufeng looked at her deeply again, then turned and strode away. The morning sun elongated his shadow and cast it on the neat bluestone street. The young man's figure was tall and straight, like a pine tree. Mengqi stood at the entrance of Rosy Lane and watched Pei Mufeng leave. Su Junmo looked at Mengqi, then looked at Pei Mufeng, whose back was almost out of sight. There was something he really wanted to say, but he didn't dare to say it to Mengqi. Go in, go in. Su Junmo spread his arms in front of Mengqi, preventing her from looking at Pei Mufeng. You've been busy all night. It's time to go back and have a good rest. By the way, he thought for a while and couldn't help but ask, Mengqi, have you found that store? Yes. Mengqi nodded. She finally retracted her gaze and looked at Su Junmo's face. She instantly smiled like a blooming flower. Of course, that store is very easy to find. Thank you for your guidance, Brother Su. No, thank me if you want to. I'm a little scared when you smile like that. Su Junmo was still a little scared. Mengqi had already turned and walked towards Rosy Lane. She knew that Su Junmo was muttering beside her and glancing at her from time to time. Xing was also looking at her curiously. Mengqi kept smiling and didn't say anything. When she reached the small courtyard where the 3 of them lived, she still smiled and said goodbye to the 2 of them. Then, she walked towards her room. In short, she seemed to be in a very good mood. Mengqi listened to the footsteps behind her. She knew that the messy footsteps belonged to Su Junmo. He obviously walked around the courtyard a few times. It seemed that he was a little upset because of her. She silently apologized to Su Junmo in her heart. When she put her hand on the door, Mengqi suddenly turned her head and looked at Su Junmo. By the way, Brother Su. Yes? Su Junmo looked at Mengqi. What? Cloud waterfall. Mengqi described it. How did you do it? She tilted her head slightly and looked at Su Junmo. She asked a little embarrassedly. It looks very beautiful, but I haven't seen it anywhere else in the 3,000 worlds. Yin yin. Cloud waterfall? Su Junmo stuttered and looked at Mengqi in disbelief. What's a cloud waterfall? Mengqi. Xing also asked. It's very beautiful. Mengqi described. It's like a waterfall, but what falls from a high place are big white clouds. It's very beautiful. Wow. Xing cheered. I know. The demon realm has it too. I should be. I heard from Master that the demon lord especially likes cloud waterfalls. Where he lives, the clouds and mist seem to come from the sky and pour down. It's beautiful. Is it like this? Yes. Mengqi raised her eyebrows and smiled slightly. Chapter 70. So the demon realm also has it? Meng Qi seemed to be muttering to herself, but also seemed to be saying to Su Zhenmo, "If there's a chance, we must go and take a look." "Okay," Xing said enthusiastically. "When the time comes, I'll take you around. There are many beautiful places in the demon realm, and there are many delicious and fun places to eat. But there are a few heavens that we can't go to. They don't welcome cultivators from the 3,000 worlds." "Okay." Meng Qi smiled at her. She stretched and turned to continue walking into the room. "I'm going to rest. I'm sleepy." She closed the door and heard Su Zhenmo and Xing's noisy voices as usual, getting farther and farther away. Meng Qi took a deep breath and returned to the table to sit down. She took out a piece of paper and wrote the words "White Tiger Immortal" on it with a brush. Meng Qi's eyes were focused, and the words on the white paper seemed to be magnified in front of her. This was what Chu Tianfeng called the man who looked exactly like her master when she first saw the white-robed man in the Burning Heaven Palace. At that time, she didn't think so much because her master had never said that he was a demon cultivator, and Meng Qi had never heard him mention the demon realm. All she knew about the demon realm was the gossip and legends that the talkative fox talked about when he was injured. Meng Qi continued to write on the paper, "West Realm, Hidden Sect." This was what her master had introduced to her when they met in her previous life. She had never doubted it. Even now, she would not doubt a single word that her master had said. The 3,000 worlds weapon cultivators were weak, and the inheritance of a race was almost cut off. A hidden sect that could cultivate a race to such a level was really unbelievably powerful. Maybe it was true, but it was just a hidden sect that never participated in the chaotic disputes of the 3,000 worlds. Meng Qi tilted her head slightly. Little Qi came out of the beast house without anyone noticing. It leaped lightly and landed silently on the table. Its blue eyes stared at the paper in front of Meng Qi, and a trace of doubt flashed through its eyes. Meng Qi looked up at Little Qi, smiled, and reached out to rub his head. She picked up the brush and wrote down the third word, "Demon Lord." Little Qi slowly lowered its raised paw. He glanced at the words on the paper, and his eyes flashed. It was rare for the little white tiger to take 2 steps back. There was a lamp on the table, and its bright light illuminated the whole room. It also made Little Qi look even more fluffy and cute. "Little Qi." Meng Qi stopped him. She rested her arm on the table, and rested her chin on her palm. Her eyes were on the same level as Little Qi's. She looked at his azure eyes and asked, "Are you really from the heavenly demon White Tiger clan?" "Little Qi." "Then do you know true Lord White Tiger?" Meng Qi asked again. "Little Qi." "I heard that sky demons are natural-born cultivators. From birth, they can use the astral array in their bodies to cultivate. Therefore, they are usually very powerful by the time they reach adulthood." Meng Qi rubbed Little Qi's fluffy head again. "It's a pity that you are injured. Otherwise, you would definitely be much more powerful than me now." Her eyes curved into crescents as she smiled and said in a low but serious voice, "I will definitely cure you." Little Qi's eyes flickered as he looked at Meng Qi in surprise. Meng Qi said as she put away the brush and folded the piece of paper. She then carefully kept it in her storage bag. She looked up at the little white tiger, who was still staring at her in a daze, and her mood improved. Meng Qi reached out and carried Little Qi to the bed. Little White Tiger, who was still in a daze, did not struggle at all. Meng Qi was already lying on the bed with him in her arms. She seemed to be just muttering to herself, but also seemed to be venting something. Meng Qi arched her body and said to Little Qi, who was lying on the side of the bed, "If there is a person in this world who treats you extremely well, and is worthy of your wholehearted trust, what will he do? What will you do?" She also felt that her question was strange and completely puzzling. Moreover, this was a young sky demon White Tiger. No matter how much of a sky demon royal, he was still young and did not even look like an adult. He was probably a very small child in the trichiliocosm. Meng Qi reached out and scratched Little Qi's chin. She looked at his cute little face that could melt most people and said, "I will still choose to believe him. As long as he says it, I will firmly believe it." Little Qi. After Meng Qi finished speaking, she heaved a sigh of relief and turned over to lie flat on the bed. After getting drunk in Burnt City, She saw the white-robed man in the sky beyond heaven in her drunken dream. Suddenly, there was an extra bag of spirit stones. The man's voice outside the Huajiang mansion was far more powerful than her. Then there was the timely rain in the Heaven and Earth book house, the cloud waterfall, and the bamboo scroll that recorded the 4 seasons 4-order formation. Meng Qi suddenly chuckled. Why was she struggling with these questions? She even deliberately tested Su Junmo. Had her master ever harmed her? No. Was her master good to her? Very good. He was so good that she could not repay him even if she was crushed. After being reborn, she still benefited endlessly. Therefore, she did not need to struggle so much. She only needed to work hard to cultivate and make herself stronger. When they met again, or when the other party was willing to see her, perhaps, on account that she was not as weak as she was in her previous life, where she needed her master's help to form her core, the other party was willing to acknowledge her as his disciple. Meng Qi turned over again, and reached out to pinch little Qi's ear. After figuring out the things that had been troubling her during this period of time, her mood suddenly brightened and her whole body relaxed. Go to sleep, little Qi baby. After Meng Qi finished speaking, she really fell into a deep sleep. Her eyelashes were very long. When she closed her eyes and fell asleep quietly, she looked especially obedient. She finally had the softness of a 17 or 18-year-old girl. Ranwina. Net little Qi was a little confused by her words. He stared at Meng Qi's sleeping face for a moment before slowly lying down. During this period of time, they had been together day and night. They really did not leave each other's side, and they had long been used to this way of sleeping. What was she struggling with? Little Qi quietly looked at Meng Qi's side profile. It raised its little paw, and the light on the table dimmed, and the room became dim. In the haze, he seemed to hear Meng Qi muttering, "Master. Master again?" Last time, when he was drunk, he also cried and called him master. Was it the person who taught her the 4 extremes and the great star formation? But other than the aura of the White Tiger clan that he had been with her for the past few days, there was no other aura on her. Ha! Little Qi slowly lay down, its little paw gently resting on Meng Qi's wrist. He would investigate this matter sooner or later. But now he slowly closed his eyes, and his breathing also became long. Meng Qi slept all the way until the sun was setting before she woke up. After washing up and having dinner with Xing and the others, Meng Qi returned to her room. She first took out the pill recipe that Shen Jingheng had given her. Songlang Academy was quite famous for refining pills. When Meng Qi had first gone to the southern land, she had heard the residents there say that every time the seasons changed, when ordinary people fell sick easily, or when there was an epidemic, Songlang Academy would always come to sell pills at a very low price. Meng Qi had also bought pills from Songlang Academy to study. Many medicinal pills were not of much use to Xiuzha because once one reached Juji and above, they would rarely get sick from normal illnesses. Thus, even the Cloud Immortal Pavilion would not sell those medicinal pellets. Meng Qi gripped the bamboo scroll that recorded the pill recipe. Thinking of her trip to the southern land, she felt quite nostalgic. She sent Ling energy into the bamboo scroll, and a pill recipe imprinted into her mind. Ah! She couldn't help but exclaim. What Shen Jingheng had given her was the pill recipe for Tsongming powder. Meng Qi had seen this name in a book before, but that book also wrote that it was a secret of Songlang Academy in the southern land. Tsongming powder was said to be able to temporarily raise a Xiuzha's realm to the highest of the same level. For example, if you were a Xiuzha who had just entered Jindan, Songming powder could forcibly raise you to Jindan consummation. A Xiuzha who had just entered the core formation realm, and a Xiuzha who had reached the great circle of Jindan were completely different. Of course, this required that the level of Tsongming powder was high enough. A Realm 3 Tsongming powder could only temporarily raise a Jindan's realm. Realm 4 could be used on Yuanying Xiuzha. Meng Qi suddenly stood up. She had never thought that Shen Jingheng would give her the pill recipe for Tsongming powder. This was far more valuable than the 4 seasons 4 commands formation. Meng Qi's mind spun, and her brow furrowed slightly. Had Songlang Academy encountered some trouble? She jumped up and quickly walked out the door. Xing, Meng Qi called Xing. Did anything happen in Descending Star City during the day today? No. Xing shook her head. She was a 4th grade Yao Xiuzha. Staying up all night was nothing to her. During the day, when Mengqi was sleeping, she still walked around the city energetically. Mengqi was late at night. She had brought back the specialty snacks of Descending Star City. There is one matter, Xing suddenly said with a smile. The patriarch of the Xue family, Xue Lingfeng's father, has arrived. I watched from afar. The Xue family was so busy. They invited this family, then that family. All the medical cultivator sects in Descending Star City that have arrived have been harassed by them. When she said this, she snorted. That patriarch of the Xue family looked very powerful. In the end, there was nothing he could do. When I left, it was still very lively. It seemed that they could not find a solution. This did not surprise Mengqi. If one did not know the 4 Seasons 4 Commands formation, this formation would look very scary. Did they not find Sect Master Shen? Mengqi asked curiously. They did not, Xing said. They probably felt that since Sect Master Shen could not even save his own disciple, there was no point in finding him. They did not find Pavilion Master Pei? Mengqi asked again. They did. Xing laughed even more happily. Pavilion Master Pei is very nice. Everyone in the Xue family has their noses in the air. Their eyes are on their foreheads, but he did not say anything. Anyway, she did not like the Xue family. Even the great elder of the Xue family, and the siblings of the Xue family did not like them. She was very happy to see them in trouble. Mengqi, Xing said, let them be. They should suffer for treating you like that. Otherwise, they will always look down on others. Mengqi could not help but smile slightly. Xing's nature was candid, and she spoke very straightforwardly. The Xue family's actions clearly made her unhappy. Okay. Mengqi nodded. Since the patriarch of the Xue family is here, Xue Lingfeng can be saved. Yes. Xing held Mengqi's arm. Let's go out for a walk. I want to cultivate, Mengqi said. My cultivation progress is too slow. I need to spend more time. Xing was not surprised. Mengqi had been the same on this trip. Unless he was going to treat his illness, he would use his time to cultivate. She said that she did not have enough talent in cultivation, so her cultivation progress was slow. Xing was slightly disappointed. She let go of Mengqi's arm. All right, she said. I will not disturb you. She thought and then said disappointedly. It is a pity that I do not know the spells of Xiuzha cultivation. Otherwise, I could teach you. Mengqi's mind suddenly moved. She was still cultivating with the energy cultivation spells of Cool Breeze Valley. This was the most common product in the 3000 worlds. It could allow Xiuzha to absorb the Ling energy of the world into their body, and slowly convert it for their own use. It would then accumulate in their spirit sea. The process of Xiuzha cultivation was to accumulate more and more Ling energy. Finally, it would change from quantity to quality, expand the spirit sea, and increase their cultivation. Mengqi knew how to use the Great Star Formation, but this formation was too overbearing. Back then, her teacher mainly used it to help her. When she could not increase her cultivation level, she could accumulate enough Ling energy to help her increase her cultivation level by 1 realm. She had just built her foundation not long ago, so she did not dare to use the Great Star Formation again. When she reached the 8th level of foundation establishment, she could use the Great Star Formation to try and see if it could help her break through and enter the Golden Core realm. However, she could find other cultivation spells. Cool Breeze Valley was a very small medical cultivation sect. Their Qi cultivation spells were too ordinary, and their cultivation speed was very slow. Unless it was an extremely talented disciple like Lu Qingran, otherwise, their sect's head wouldn't only be a Jindan stage cultivator. Mengqi now had some spirit stones that she did not need for the time being. She could go to the outland to try and see if she could buy some better Qi cultivation spells. She had such an idea before, but when she thought about how the spiritual medicines needed to detoxify little Qi were not cheap, and the better Qi cultivation spells would not be cheap either, Mengqi did not look for them for the time being. Mengqi? Si Kongxing waved her hand in front of her face. What are you thinking about? I just talked to you. Did you hear me? What? Meng Qi came back to her senses. Forget it. Si Kongxing waved her hand. It's not a big deal. Go do your thing. Okay. Meng Qi nodded and turned to go back to her room. She closed the door and took out the jade slip of the Outland. Little Qi, who was lying lazily on the bed, looked up and glanced at the jade slip in her hand. Meng Qi had already found a chair to sit on and entered the Outland. She did not know where to buy spells, so she asked the management staff at the city gate first. Spells. The management staff thought for a while. There will be some at the auction. Other than that, there are usually no shops that sell spells. I'm afraid you can only look for them slowly. Thank you. Meng Qi was a little disappointed. But thinking about it, most of the sects in the Trichiliocosm were still mainly about spells. Other than very ordinary spells, most sects would not sell the spells in their sections. Meng Qi's eyes suddenly lit up. She could go to the Heaven and Earth bookhouse to look again. There were so many spells there, and there were even bamboo slips that recorded the 4 seasons 4 commands array. Maybe that senior would also collect spell bamboo slips. She should still have 10 spirit points, which should be just enough to exchange for a book. Meng Qi made up her mind, and immediately walked toward the northwest corner of the Outland. This time, she didn't hesitate and directly walked into the Heaven and Earth bookhouse. Not many people knew about this place. Meng Qi came this time. Other than rows of tall bookshelves, she was still the only one. Senior. She cupped her hands and bowed. I'm here to disturb you again. The study house was quiet. She did not know if that old man was here. Meng Qi waited for a while, but that person did not appear. She had no choice but to walk slowly along the bookshelves. On the bookshelves on both sides, there were countless bamboo slips and jade slips. This was not like the library in the Cool Breeze Valley, where the bamboo slips and jade slips would be separated into categories. There would also be names of their respective categories on the bookshelves for the disciples to find. Of course, if she did not know what book to look for, she could directly ask Elder Yan Mingfeng, or the disciple in charge of the library. Meng Qi looked at the bookshelves on her left and right. There was nothing written on the dark brown bookshelves. As for those bamboo slips and jade slips, she could not see anything wrong with them just by staring at them. Meng Qi waited for a while more, but she still did not see that old man. She thought that she only had about 10 spirit points left, so she did not dare to waste them. However, there was no other way. Meng Qi turned around in disappointment and walked toward the door of the study house. She had only taken a few steps when the sound of clothes fluttering in the wind came from behind her. Senior. Meng Qi turned around in surprise and saw the owner of the Heaven and Earth bookhouse, the old man she had seen last time, standing behind her. Cough cough. The old man seemed to be in a hurry as if he had rushed over from afar. He coughed twice, and a smile returned to his face. Little friend, you're here again? Yes. Meng Qi said. Sorry to trouble you again, senior. She paused and said, I want to find some qi cultivation techniques used by the cultivators of the Trichiliocosm. I wonder if you have such techniques books here, senior? Oh. The old man pondered and looked at Meng Qi kindly. I do, but I don't know if they're suitable for you. He turned around as he spoke. Meng Qi watched as he reached out and grabbed casually. 4 bamboo slips and 2 jade slips appeared in his palm. These qi cultivation techniques have been here for many years, and no one has ever used them. Little friend, you can choose and see if there's anything you can use. Thank you, senior. Meng Qi looked at the things in the old man's palm. But I only have 10 spiritual points, so I can only choose one. She glanced at the bamboo slips and jade slips, not knowing which one to choose. Seeing Meng Qi's hesitation, the old man waved his hand and handed the bamboo slips and jade slips to her. It's okay, he said lightly. Meng Qi did not understand. Was this place so good? Could she preview the contents first before deciding which one to choose? You have a lot of spiritual points, so it won't cost much to change them all. The old man waved his hand, and a complicated expression flashed across his face. Meng Qi was even more confused. How could she have a lot of spiritual points? Wasn't it just 10 points? Hold your nameplate in your hand, and you can check your remaining spiritual points. The old man raised the corner of his lips and said with a faint smile. Oh. Meng-Chi took out her Outland nameplate. How? She suddenly widened her eyes and looked at the old man in disbelief. 9. More than 9,000 spiritual points. Meng-Chi was stunned. She remembered that the old man said that spiritual points could only be exchanged with books that were not here. Or if someone borrowed the books that she sent, they could give her a part of it. It seemed that each time, it was only 3 points. More than 9,000 points. Meng-Chi was a little dizzy from the hit. The old man laughed. It's probably the bamboo slips that you sent. That's great, someone likes them. He probably guessed Meng-Chi's worry and said with a smile, the calculation of spiritual points will not be wrong. Those are all yours, so you can rest assured. Chapter 71. Meng-Chi held her nameplate tightly in confusion. The Outland has its own set of rules. The old man from the Heaven and Earth bookhouse saw her confusion, and continued to explain with a smile. No one in the small world can break the rules here. You can't snatch what doesn't belong to you, and no one can take away what belongs to you. Meng-Chi nodded. She understood and turned her head to look at the bookshelf that seemed to have no end. There must be many secrets here that she didn't know. However, she had already thought about it. She wouldn't doubt or think about it. She would work hard to become stronger first. Meng-Chi had a firm mind and was not easily affected by external things. She stopped thinking about it. Thank you, Senior. She cupped her hands and bowed to the old man. Then, she looked down at the bamboo slips and jade slips. The 4 bamboo slips seemed to be quite old, and they were slightly yellowed from being rubbed. The jade slips looked particularly exquisite. One of them was engraved with a pattern that Meng-Chi didn't recognize. She sent her spiritual energy into the bamboo slips and jade slips. The old man stood aside and looked at Meng-Chi with a smile. He knew that the other party would take a while to choose, so he took out a bamboo slip and stood aside to look at it with relish. Meng-Chi browsed through the bamboo slips and jade slips one by one. There were indeed 6 cultivation techniques recorded on them. She had never heard of them before, and they didn't indicate their levels. Most of the chi refinement techniques in the trichiliocosm had their levels indicated on the bamboo slips that recorded the techniques. For example, Meng-Chi's current chi refinement technique was obtained from the Cool Breeze Valley, and it was only a 4th grade technique. In other words, that technique could only be cultivated to the 4th realm at most. After she broke through the Golden Core realm and entered the nascent soul realm, it would be difficult for her to make any progress if she continued to cultivate with this technique. The chi refinement techniques passed down by large sects were often much better. Not only could they allow disciples to cultivate faster, but most of them were 6th grade or 7th grade chi refinement techniques that could be used until the insightful emptiness realm, or even the insightful truth realm. Of course, large sects had better chi refinement techniques, but they often required sect contribution points to exchange for them. Not everyone could learn them. Meng-Chi was even less likely to see them. The 6 chi refinement techniques that the old man gave her didn't indicate their levels. Or no cultivator had ever used it before, so they didn't know what grade it was. Otherwise, it was a top-level chi cultivation art that could be used by ordinary cultivators until they ascended to the Mahayana realm. Meng-Chi was a little hesitant. She didn't know how to choose. Little friend, do you not know what to choose? The old man had already finished reading the 2 books. He looked up at Meng-Chi and saw the hesitation on his face. He asked with a smile, or are these not enough to satisfy your needs? Senior, Meng-Chi did not hide it. I don't know much about chi refinement techniques, so I really don't know how to choose. Senior, please give me some pointers. As she spoke, she bowed again and sincerely said, Thank you, Senior. The old man reached out and took the bamboo scroll from Meng-Chi's hand. The cultivation of the 3,000 worlds cultivators is against the heavens. Obtaining spiritual energy from heaven and earth for one's own use, forcibly opening up a spirit sea within one's body to store spiritual energy. He said, This is different from demon cultivation and demonic cultivation, so it's often much more difficult for cultivators to cultivate. As the old man spoke, he took out one of the bamboo scrolls. In my early years, I collected many chi refinement techniques of cultivators, and they are roughly divided into two types. One is mainly about obtaining spiritual energy. The other is mainly about opening up a spirit sea. Therefore, the reason why chi refinement techniques can be divided into grades is based on how much spiritual energy they can obtain, or how big the spirit sea can be opened up. I see. Meng Qi listened attentively and looked at the old man with bright eyes. The old man put his hands behind his back and looked at Meng Qi's bright eyes that were full of curiosity. He was overjoyed. Most of the juniors in his family were too talented and intelligent, and none of them had the patience to listen to his slow nagging. Ahem. The old man coughed lightly and paced slowly between the bookshelves with his hands behind his back. He continued, "This is how the later generations divided it. In fact, in the ancient times tens of thousands of years ago, even in the 3,000 worlds, cultivators did not artificially divide the grades of chi refinement techniques." Yes. Meng Qi nodded obediently. Therefore, when choosing chi refinement techniques, cultivators are happy to choose high-grade ones. This way, they can use them for longer. The old man added, "You're in a difficult position. These techniques have no grades, so you don't know how to choose?" Yes. Meng Qi was a little embarrassed. That's what I thought too. My cultivation talent is limited, so I want to choose a higher grade one. Aha. The old man nodded with a smile. "Let me take a look." As he spoke, he took back the bamboo scrolls and jade scrolls. Although the old man was idle, if Meng Qi did not take the initiative to ask, he would not have taken the initiative to tell her these things. Now that Meng Qi took the initiative to ask, he would tell her everything he knew. This could be considered a small test. The old man handed the jade scroll with the symbol on it to Meng Qi. "This is okay. You can use it first." He did not have many chi refinement techniques. This was an important part of the inheritance of the major sects in the 3,000 worlds. The sects often had extremely strict methods to protect the inheritance, and very few of them were spread outside. To the old man, there was no need to collect these chi refinement techniques. The ones he picked out for Meng Qi were the best ones he had. If someone was familiar with him, they would know that okay was actually the highest evaluation he could give to the chi refinement techniques of the cultivators in the 3,000 worlds. Meng Qi took it happily. "Thank you, senior." To her, as long as it was better than the chi refinement techniques in Cool Breeze Valley, it was enough. The old man was even more satisfied. He lived on the heaven and earth tree, and his clan was famous for having few juniors. There were very few people who were willing to visit him and talk to him. Meng Qi's complete trust, as well as the pure admiration in her eyes, made him feel very comfortable. "Senior." Meng Qi thought for a while and said, "Since I have more than 9,000 spirit points, can I borrow other books?" "Of course." The old man nodded with a smile. "What else do you want?" "Senior, I wonder if you have books related to medical skills here?" Meng Qi asked again. The old man sized up Meng Qi. "Your range is very large." He thought for a while and said, "The 7th floor here." The old man pointed up. "They're all books related to medical skills, medical cultivation techniques, spiritual herbs, spiritual flowers, and so on." Ah. Meng Qi was ecstatic. "Can I still exchange for a book with 10 spirit points?" "Yes." The old man nodded. "I'll give you a brand." As he spoke, he flicked his finger, and a bit of starlight entered Meng Qi's forehead. "As long as it's a book on the 7th floor, you can read it as long as you have enough spirit points, except that you can't take it away." "Thank you, senior." Meng Qi was really happy this time. She sincerely thanked the owner of the heavens beyond heaven. This place was really a huge treasure. There was actually such a great place. Moreover, it didn't feel that it was difficult to earn spirit points. Meng Qi happily held the jade slip that the old man had chosen for her, and sent her spirit energy into it. Then, she closed her eyes and began to comprehend. Her cultivation talent was average. If it was a medical book, she might be able to read and memorize it in half an hour. However, this qi cultivation technique, Meng Qi simply found a place to sit cross-legged and slowly comprehend it. The level of a cultivator's talent in cultivation was reflected in this. Some people could learn qi cultivation techniques as soon as they learned them. No matter how complicated the technique was, they would be able to learn it easily and achieve twice the result with half the effort. Some people would take a long time just to learn it. When it was time to really use it for cultivation, for the same technique, a cultivator with high talent would be familiar with it, and it would take less time for them to circulate the technique. Every time they circulated the technique, they would be able to obtain more spirit energy from heaven and earth. In this way, the gap might not be much. However, over time the cultivation speed would be pulled apart. For example, Meng Qi's senior sister, Lu Qingran, was an all-rounder. Using the same low-level technique from the Cool Breeze Valley, she was able to stand out from the hundreds of disciples in the Cool Breeze Valley, and become the disciple who took the shortest time to reach foundation establishment in the 1,000 years since the establishment of the Cool Breeze Valley. Meng Qi was slightly weaker. Her medical talent was extremely high, but her cultivation talent was average. She practiced step by step for half a year, and had to rely on the help of the array that her master taught her to successfully break through to foundation establishment. When Meng Qi finally mastered the technique and opened her eyes, it was already 6 hours later. The old man had already left quietly, and the entire heaven and earth bookhouse became quiet again. Meng Qi took a deep breath, stood up, and respectfully placed the jade slip on the bookshelf at the side. She moved her body and looked up at the 7th floor of the heaven and earth bookhouse. Should she go up and take a look? At the thought that there might be countless bamboo slips and jade slips related to medical skills, Meng Qi couldn't stay still. She hurried up the stairs, and the wooden staircase creaked softly as it spun. On each floor, there were more than 10 rows of bookshelves that directly reached the ceiling. Meng Qi didn't stay down for long. She hurriedly glanced around and saw countless bamboo slips and jade slips piled up on those bookshelves. Her footsteps became faster and faster, and her heart thumped excitedly. Treasures. Real treasures. Thank you to the owner of this place, and thank you to Su Junmo for introducing this store to her. Finally, Meng Qi arrived at the 7th floor of the Heaven and Earth bookhouse. There were also more than 10 bookshelves there, and there were also countless bamboo slips and jade slips piled up on them. She took a deep breath, but her heart was beating even faster. Joy instantly enveloped her. She originally thought that she would at least have to pass the medical cultivation competition and enter a larger medical cultivation sect to be able to see so many books. Oh. She took a deep breath and quickly walked to the row of bookshelves closest to her. So many, Meng Qi actually felt a little thirsty. It was as if she had seen someone she liked. She was so nervous that her palms were slightly sweaty. She reached out with trembling hands and took out a bamboo slip. The old man said that he gave her the authority to look through all the bamboo slips and jade slips on the 7th floor as long as she had enough spiritual points. She held her breath and channeled a trace of spiritual energy into it. Sure enough, the contents of the bamboo slip immediately appeared in front of her. Wei Rant's medical notes, she murmured and glanced at the title of the book at the top. This should be the medical notes left behind by a medical cultivator senior. This kind of bamboo slip that recorded the medical experience of a medical cultivator was a precious treasure for all medical cultivators. Oh, so happy. Anyway, there was no one around. Meng Qi grabbed the bamboo slip and twirled it around happily. She didn't want to leave. She wanted to move in. She had more than 9,000 spiritual points, which could be exchanged for more than 900 bamboo slips. Meng Qi suddenly began to feel distressed. She had actually spent 60 spiritual points to exchange for those 6 qi refinement techniques just now. She should have asked that senior to recommend them to her early on. That way, she could have kept them to exchange for 5 more bamboo slips. Meng Qi curled her lips and sat down against the first bookcase. She read medical books very quickly. She could memorize many things after reading it once, unlike the qi refinement techniques just now. She learned the first part, but when she went to learn the second part, she forgot the first part. Meng Qi was not picky. After reading one bamboo slip, she moved on to the second one, And then the third one, medical notes, records of spiritual herbs in a certain area of the demon realm, and even a book that recorded the medical skills of the demon realm. Mengqi was so engrossed in reading that she had forgotten the time. Mengqi, Mengqi, until she heard the voice of Xikongxing from afar. Mengqi, are you in the room? Are you okay? Mengqi was stunned for a moment before she came back to her senses from the world in the book. She stood up and stretched her body. In heavens beyond, if someone from the outside world called her not far away, she would be able to hear it. But just like this, she would feel that the voice was very far away, as if it was coming from another world. Xikongxing's voice had a hint of nervousness, and there was a knock, knock, knock sound coming from the door. Mengqi reluctantly put the bamboo slips back on the bookshelf and walked quickly to the first floor. She quickly left the Heaven and Earth book room and left heavens beyond through the teleportation array. Mengqi opened her eyes. The jade slip of heavens beyond was warm from her grip. Little Qi was still lying lazily beside her. It only looked up at Mengqi when it heard her movements. Mengqi? Mengqi? Xikongxing knocked on the door again. Are you inside? Xingxing. Mengqi quickly opened the door for her. Phew. Xikongxing breathed a sigh of relief. If you don't open the door, I will break in. What's wrong? Mengqi asked. Excuse me, is this fellow Taoist Mengqi? Before Xikongxing could answer, a young man's voice came from behind her. Mengqi looked over Xikongxing's shoulder, and behind her, in the independent courtyard where they lived in Rosy Lane, two young men in blue robes stood tall and slender. The Wind Alliance's logo was embroidered on the chest of their robes. Mengqi had seen it on the Xue family before. Mengqi. Xikongxing pursed her lips. They must see you. Her usually expressionless face was full of unhappiness. Su Zhenmo is with them. Mengqi raised her eyebrows. If Xikongxing was so angry, would the Wind Alliance dare to detain Su Zhenmo to threaten them? Young Master Su has always been on good terms with the Wind Alliance. He is an honored guest of the Alliance Master and the four major families. The Wind Alliance male disciple who spoke before said, Young Master Su also told us to invite fellow Taoist Meng to a meeting. What's the matter? Mengqi's tone was indifferent. Fellow Taoist Meng will know when you go. The Wind Alliance disciple said, This matter concerns the three major families of the Wind Alliance, so I can't say it here. From beginning to end, he didn't even greet them with cupped hands. His expression also carried the unique arrogance of a disciple of a large sect. Xikongxing's little face was already dark, but Mengqi didn't care. But could it be that Xue Lingfeng's poison still hasn't been cured even though the Xue family's master is here? Wait a moment. Mengqi said, I'll take some things. If fellow Taoist Meng wants any herbs, I don't think it's necessary. The disciple said proudly, although the Wind Alliance came in a hurry, they still have all kinds of spiritual flowers and spiritual herbs. Oh. Mengqi went back to take little Qi. Seeing Xikongxing's unhappy expression, she raised the corner of her mouth. Has Xue Lingfeng's poison been cured? The Wind Alliance disciple was speechless. Xikongxing really didn't like these two people. Seeing them being humiliated, she couldn't help but laugh cheerfully. She didn't like the Xue family, and she didn't like these two arrogant Wind Alliance disciples even more. Seeing that the disciple's expression instantly darkened, Mengqi finally understood why he came to find her. She returned to her room and carried little Qi into the beast house. Then she kept her in her storage bag. Then she closed the door again. Mengqi, I'll go with you. Xikongxing held Mengqi's arm. She didn't want Mengqi to go to the Wind Alliance alone. She hated that old man from the Xue family who attacked as he pleased last time. Is Pavilion Master Pei here too? Mengqi asked again. The Wind Alliance disciple's expression was still dark, and his tone wasn't very pleasant. Pavilion Master Pei is the owner of Descending Star City. Of course she's here. The owner of Descending Star City. Mengqi was stunned. This was the first time she heard of such a thing. There was such a rule in the 3,000 worlds. There was one sect in each city. The sect that was built next to the city would protect the ordinary people in the city. Similarly, A portion of the city's taxes would be sent to the sect to maintain the sect's daily operations. For example, Cool Breeze Town at the foot of Cool Breeze Valley and Burning Sky Palace's Burning City. The ancestors of Descending Star Pavilion would also protect Descending Star City. They would guard the city gates with swords and protect everyone in the city. However, it was the first time Meng-Chi heard of such a thing. She glanced at the Wind Alliance disciple again. He seemed to be saying something that couldn't be any more natural. His expression didn't change at all. Meng-Chi narrowed her eyes. The Wind Alliance's 4 big families, including the headquarters, had 5 cities in the West Kingdom. The West Kingdom was also the most powerful kingdom where medical practitioners had the highest status. So they were so powerful that they considered themselves as the owner? She somewhat understood why Great Elder Shui didn't hesitate to ask Pei Mufeng to chase away all the residents of the East City that day at the Shui family. This was probably a very common thing for them. Instinctively, Meng-Chi distanced herself from the 2 Wind Alliance disciples. She and Si Kongxing walked side by side on the other side of the street. How long have I been asleep? Meng-Chi asked. 1 day and 2 nights, Si Kongxing said in a small voice. Then there's only 1 day left until the Medical Cultivation Assembly. So tomorrow was the first day of the Medical Cultivation Assembly. No wonder the Shui family came. This way, please. Probably because Meng-Chi had mocked them a little earlier, the 2 Wind Alliance disciples' attitudes towards her became even colder. The Wind Alliance disciple who had been talking waved his hand impatiently. The patriarchs of the 4 big families are all inside. Fellow Taoist Meng is probably the first foundational cultivator that can make these 4 wait for so long. He was also a Jindan and could see Meng-Chi's cultivation at a glance. Oh. Meng-Chi responded faintly. It's my honor. Her expression was normal as she walked side by side with Si Kongxing. This should be the largest inn in the eastern part of Starfall City. Right now, it had been booked by the 4 big families of the Wind Alliance. The Xiozha guarding the door were all wearing the robes of the Wind Alliance. The disciples that the Wind Alliance had brought to Starfall City this time were all Jindan Xiozha. Even those who ran errands. They had a great presence. When they saw Meng-Chi, a foundational cultivator, most of them only glanced at her before their gazes turned to other places. However, several people stared at Si Kongxing's face, which could be called beautiful even among Xiozha, and took a few more looks. Si Kongxing twisted her mouth and said in a low voice, "If it wasn't for Su Junmo, I wouldn't have come." Meng-Chi smiled at her, and did not speak. The 2 disciples quickly brought them to the main hall of the inn. There were no other guests here. The tables and chairs inside had been cleaned and rearranged. When Si Kongxing stepped in, she couldn't help but click her tongue. So luxurious. So grand. The main hall of the inn was very spacious. Now that it had been rearranged to look like the main room of a wealthy family, even the antiques, decorations, calligraphy, and paintings were all present. It looked extraordinary. When she sighed, the 2 middle-aged men sitting at the main seats in the main hall who had been talking looked towards Meng-Chi. Si Kongxing's expression did not change. Meng-Chi's expression was also normal. Patriarch. One of the disciples that had led Meng-Chi here glared at Si Kongxing. He quickly walked forward and bowed respectfully. This is Meng-Chi. The middle-aged man on the left swept his gaze across Meng-Chi's face. Meng-Chi saw that he looked to be about 50 years old. He had a long beard and hair that were both black. Even though he looked middle-aged, he looked very handsome. He did not have the sage-like aura of elder Yan Mingfeng. Instead, he looked like he had been in a high position for a long time. He had an imposing aura around him. Moreover, this middle-aged man looked 50 to 60% similar to Shui Qingxian. He looked more like a middle-aged version of Shui Qingxian. Patriarch Shui. Meng-Chi respected him as an elder. She stepped forward and bowed. You're Meng-Chi? Shui Qingxuan's father, the patriarch of the Shui family, Shui Chuan, sized her up. I've heard Qingxian mention you before. The corners of his lips curled up, and he put away his serious expression. He looked at Meng-Chi with a smile and said, Qingxian treats you as a close friend and praises you incessantly whenever he mentions you. I don't deserve it. Meng-Chi's tone was indifferent. Do you know that I was against the Medical Cultivator Conference being held in Starfall City this year? Shuechuan said. It was my son Chengxian who convinced me. He also said that Pavilion Master Pei of the Starfall Pavilion had entered the Starfall Sea for the Medical Cultivator Conference Alliance for 10 years. It was worth it for us to give up the venue of the conference. He stood up, and his expression was even more amiable. Do you know that even in the Shui family and the Wind Alliance, there are still many voices of opposition? That's why Qingxian treats you as a close friend. He said that you're open-minded and are worth befriending. Mengqi was stunned. She did not expect Shui Qingxian to say this to his father, the patriarch of the Shui family. She thought that it would be difficult for them to meet again after the Huajiang mansion incident. The middle-aged male cultivator beside Shuechuan also stood up. He looked shorter and thinner than Shuechuan. He looked at Mengqi with an especially amiable gaze. My son Wenhe. I'm sure you've met him before. This person was the patriarch of the Wen family, one of the 4 great families of the Wind Alliance, Wen Su. Sect Master 1. Mengqi bowed again. Little friend Meng, you're not better than Duo Li. Wen Su waved his hand and said with a smile, this old master has also heard about little friend from Chengxian. The breadth of mind of young people nowadays is indeed not something that old men like us can compare with. This old master is waiting for you to surpass your masters, and it won't be too far away. The 2 Wind Alliance disciples who went to invite Mengqi secretly looked at each other and saw a trace of fear in each other's eyes. They did not expect that these 2 patriarchs, who were considered the most powerful medical cultivators in the 3,000 worlds, would be so polite to a foundational cultivator. Fine beads of sweat appeared on their foreheads, and their backs were soaked with sweat. When someone told them to invite Mengqi, they did not say that this foundational cultivator knew the eldest son of the Shui family, Shui Qingxian. Even Mengqi was surprised. Since these 2 elders who were old enough to be her father were so polite, her attitude softened a lot. Mengqi said politely, I've indeed met Daoist Shui and Daoist Wen before. However, I'm not talented and don't deserve such praise. You're too kind. Ha! Wen Su glanced at the smiling Shuechuan and said gently, little friend Meng, you can't compare to Qian. We watched Chengxian grow up. Even though my son has a good relationship with him, he has never praised him like this. He paused and said, since you're a medical cultivator, I'm sure you're here to participate in the Medical Cultivator Spiritual Conference. May I know which sect you're from? Are there any elders with you? I don't belong to any sect, Mengqi said. I've already left my previous sect. That's good. Wen Su smiled and said, you can participate in the competition of the spiritual conference. Although our Wind Alliance is strict in recruiting disciples, we welcome talents like you very much. Moreover, you have Qingxian's recommendation. He even said that you know about the divine devouring vine and can cure it. This old man wishes you in advance to show off your skills in the grand competition and get a good result. He did not mention Shui Lingfeng at all. He only praised Mengqi. As the head of the Wen family, one of the 4 big families of the Wind Alliance, his status was very high. Compared to the Cool Breeze Valley sect master, he was very different. Such a powerful medical cultivator was sincerely praising Mengqi, a foundation establishment cultivator. Even Mengqi felt that it was a little unreal. That's right. Wen Su praised for a while more before saying, since you're an itinerant cultivator and are familiar with Chengxian, my son, and little Su, why don't you move here? When the Medical Cultivator Spiritual Conference starts, we'll go together. What do you think? Thank you, Sect Master. I'm already used to living in Rosy Lane. I won't disturb you. What kind of disturbance is this? Wen Su smiled. Moreover, my son also knows you. Instead of staying behind closed doors, why don't you interact more with fellow Taoists of the same age? I often teach here this, so I often let him travel with Chengxian. You're all the best of the younger generation. Why don't you interact more? You should move here. Wen Su was very enthusiastic. His attitude completely treated Mengqi as his own junior. He was kind and amiable, and there was nothing wrong with it. Father. This time, before Mengqi could refuse, the young man's clear voice came from outside the door. Uncle Morong asked me to invite Father and Uncle Shui. Meng Qi turned around and saw Wen He, who she had seen before, who followed Xue Qingxian hurriedly walk in. He looked very anxious and worried. Sister Lingfeng's poison is acting up more and more frequently. Brother Xue can't suppress it anymore. What's the matter? Wen Su's expression became serious. Didn't you say that Lingfeng is better? Yes. When he quickly said, but in these 4 hours, the poison would act up almost every 15 minutes. It's getting harder and harder to suppress the poison with medicine. Sister Lingfeng fainted from the pain every time. If the poison is not cured, I'm afraid. His brows were tightly knitted together, and he looked genuinely worried. Wen Su sighed and turned to look at Xue Chuan. Let's go and take a look. Xue Chuan waved his sleeves. Let's go. He did not seem to be worried at all. Instead, he nodded at Meng Qi. I'm going to take a look at my daughter. Please go ahead. Meng Qi. When he seemed to have just seen Meng Qi. You're here too. He was extremely surprised. When did you come? After we parted at Huajiang Mansion, we went to Burnt City. I was thinking of meeting you again, and coming to Descending Star City together would be more interesting. Wen Su chuckled. I'm persuading little friend Meng to move here. Here, since you're little friend Meng's friend, you should persuade her as well. That's right, Meng Qi. When he immediately said, Brother Xue lives here too. I even met Brother Su and wanted to ask him if he knew when you would arrive at Descending Star City. All right, let's go and see Lingfeng first. Wen Su shook his head and urged his son. Don't leave yet, Meng Qi. Wait for us to cure Sister Lingfeng's poison before we drink together. When he waved his hand at Meng Qi. See you later. Little friend Su and Qingxian are with my daughter. If little friend Meng is free, why don't we go together? Xue Chuan's tone was calm as he invited Meng Qi. At the small book pavilion, Xing's hand that was hanging by her side suddenly grabbed Meng Qi's finger and shook it gently. She felt that something was not right, but she could not pinpoint what was wrong. These two important figures of the Wind Alliance were very polite to Meng Qi, and when he also seemed very sincere. However, she still felt that something was not right. All right. Meng Qi held her hand and shook it gently, indicating that she did not need to worry. Please. Xue Chuan waved his sleeves and made a please gesture. When he had already run to Meng Qi's side and asked, "Oh right, Meng Qi, where did you go after that? We were at the Mystic Cloud Mountain Villa, and could not see you after we chased after you." I went to do a mission from the Cultivator Alliance, Meng Qi said. Huh. When he was startled. What mission? Killing demon cultivators who crossed the boundary with divine devouring vines. Exciting. When he gave him a thumbs up. Next time you encounter something like this, call me along. How long have you been in Descending Star City? Didn't you return to Burnt City after that? It's been a few days. Meng Qi smiled. I've also seen Miss Xue and fellow Taoist Xue. When he was startled. Sister Lingfeng was poisoned, did you know? I know. Meng Qi nodded. Later on, 2 more people from the Wind Alliance were poisoned like Sister Lingfeng. They were in the same situation. When a golden core cultivator used a spell to remove the poison, they were poisoned even more severely. Meng Qi, you're a Foundation Establishment cultivator, right? That's really great. When he clenched his left fist and hammered his right hand excitedly. Sister Lingfeng should be saved this time. Quick, quick, quick. As when he spoke, he pulled Meng Qi and walked forward quickly. If it's you, you can definitely save Sister Lingfeng and my cousin. Chapter 72. Meng Qi smirked and allowed Wen He to drag her forward. Xing quickly followed. Her eyes darted around as she gently pulled on Meng Qi's sleeve. Xue Chuan and Wen Su were a little further away. They smiled as they looked at the 3 of them. It was as if they were kind elders looking at their outstanding juniors. They felt helpless and proud. Meng Qi lowered her hand and scratched Xing's palm with her fingertips. The sleeves of their robes were hanging down, and no one noticed the small movements between them at all. When he walked quickly, Sister Lingfeng is also pitiful. He continued to nag. She was in a hurry to come to Descending Star City to meet someone. In the end, she was sneak attacked on the way. He paused. Actually, the poison was nothing. The person who poisoned her was very cunning. He used some tricks to prevent us from saving Sister Lingfeng. Isn't it obvious that the Wind Alliance and the four great families are humiliated? It's really infuriating. Mengqi looked down and hid the light in her eyes. When did you guys arrive? She asked casually. I originally set off from Burnt City with Brother Shui. We met with some problems on the way, so we were 2 days late. We arrived at Descending Star City yesterday morning. Oh. Mengqi replied casually. She smirked. Where's Morong Fei? He arrived with Brother Shui. What's wrong? When he looked at Mengqi curiously. Nothing. Mengqi smiled. We're here. She raised her chin towards the door in front of her. Yes, yes. As they spoke, they arrived at Shui Lingfeng's door. It was quiet. Other than the two Wind Alliance disciples guarding the door, there was no one else. Where's Brother Shui? Mengqi asked again. He went to see the other two poison members of the Wind Alliance. The person who poisoned him is really despicable. There are so many medical practitioners in Descending Star City who are targeting our Wind Alliance disciples. When he said with righteous indignation. As he spoke, he pushed open the door to Shui Lingfeng's room. There was still a faint medicinal fragrance in the room, with a hint of bitterness. As soon as Mengqi stepped into the room, he was greeted by the fragrance. She took a deep breath and suddenly recalled the book she had read in the Heaven and Earth book room. The book recorded some elixirs from a certain heaven in the demon realm. The person who wrote the book wrote a meaningful sentence at the beginning. Poison can also save people. Elixirs can also hurt people. Mengqi, come and take a look. When he pulled her to the bed, the curtains were still hanging low, hiding the situation on the bed. Mengqi lifted the curtain and saw Shui Lingfeng lying quietly on the bed. Her face became even paler. Her long eyelashes drooped down, and there was a faint green color in her eyes. There was no trace of blood on her cheeks. Her cherry lips were slightly dry, and there were even faint teeth marks on them. If the poison of afterimage grass and cold plum blossom juice stayed in the body for a long time, it would act up more frequently. It would also become more and more intense. Mengqi had seen Shui Lingfeng endure the pain when the poison acted up. The teeth marks on her lips must have been left when she gritted her teeth to endure the pain. Sister Lingfeng is really strong. Even though Shui Lingfeng was unconscious, when he still lowered his voice, as if he was afraid of disturbing her. So look. Calm, he whispered. No matter how painful it is, she often doesn't make a sound. When he sighed softly, we grew up together. I usually see her as delicate, but I didn't expect. I would rather be the one poisoned. Si Kongxing, who followed in, snorted softly. Where's Su Zhenmo? She asked. Didn't you say he was here too? Brother Su and Brother Shui went to see the other Poison Wind League disciples. When he quickly explained, they should be back after lunch. He then turned to Mengqi. Mengqi, how is it? Sister Lingfeng was poisoned by the residual shadow grass and the cold plum flower juice. As long as you know the clear wind technique, you can force the poison out. Do you know the clear wind technique? Level 4. Mengqi said. That's great. When he clenched his fist and hammered his palm. We should have found you earlier so that Sister Lingfeng would suffer less. Hey. Si Kongxing squeezed between the two of them and pushed Wen He away from Mengqi. We haven't agreed to detoxify this little girl. As she spoke, she stood in front of Mengqi to protect her. When he was startled. Si Kongxing was slender and tall. She was considered tall among women. When he could only extend his head to look at Mengqi, who was behind her. Mengqi, you will save Sister Lingfeng, right? He asked carefully. Si Kongxing sneered. Don't you know that we came to see your sister Lingfeng 2 days ago? Your family's elder, a dignified spirit-severing cultivator, rolled up Mengqi and threw him against the wall. This. When he was also startled. He muttered. I don't know. It must be that the Shui family's elder is too worried about Sister Lingfeng. Big Brother Shui definitely won't sit by and watch Mengqi get hurt. Also, aren't we friends? He looked at Mengqi. Big Brother Shui has been praising you the whole way, saying that you are carefree and open-minded, with a pure and firm heart. He even said that we should learn from you. Ming-Chi, as a friend, as a medical cultivator, are you going to watch someone die and not save them? When he muttered, when Su and Xuechuan just happened to walk into the room. When his last words fell into their ears without missing a single word. When Su's face darkened as he scolded. What are you saying? Father. When he seemed to be unconvinced, but he turned to look at his father and didn't say anything. When Su glanced sternly at his son. Seeing his stubborn face, he shook his head helplessly and sighed. I've said many times, that when family's teachings mention saving the dying and helping the injured, we can't just watch someone die. We can only use our family's teachings to ask of ourselves, but not others. He paused and then slowly said, the entire Wind Alliance is grateful that little friend Meng is willing to help. If little friend Meng has some unspeakable difficulties and is unwilling to help, we can't force her. Do you understand? Yes. When his face was still unconvinced, but due to his father's authority, he responded in a low voice, this child understands. This time, even Sikong Xing gradually figured out that something was wrong. Little friend Meng, don't take He-Er's words to heart. Privately, you are not a member of the Wind Alliance. Publicly, you are not even a member of the Medical Cultivator Assembly. Although the Medical Cultivator Assembly has the right to mobilize all the medical cultivators in the world during special times, neither the Wind Alliance nor the Medical Cultivator Assembly would do such a thing. When he said gently to Ming-Chi, as for saving Ling Feng, that is the responsibility of the Wind Alliance. You don't need to feel burdened. Sikong Xing looked at Wen He, who was sulking and didn't speak. She looked at Wen Su and Xuechuan and slowly blinked. Why did she feel that? The father and son and Xuechuan's actions were like roasting Ming-Chi on a fire. First, it was Xuechuan and Wen Su. As important figures of the Wind Alliance and the masters of the two big families, they treated Ming-Chi with great respect. Wen He, who appeared next, even called him friend. It seemed that he had a very close relationship with Ming-Chi. Sikong Xing had heard the chatterbox Su Junmo talk about Xue Qingxian and the others. He also mentioned Wen He. But she remembered that Su Junmo also said that they were not familiar with each other. They first met in Burnt City and hurriedly parted in Huajiang Manor in less than 2 days. When they parted, Xue Qingxian and the others seemed to have misunderstood and were dissatisfied with Ming-Chi. Their attitude was quite cold. Now it seemed that when he and Ming-Chi had known each other for many years and had a very good relationship. They were. Sikong Xing looked at the pale girl lying on the bed. She knew. They wanted Ming-Chi to cure Xue Lingfeng's poison, but they didn't want to take the initiative to ask. It would seem that the Wind Alliance was begging Ming-Chi. It would be best if Ming-Chi took the initiative to ask to save Xue Lingfeng. Didn't Wen Su say that Ming-Chi didn't need to feel burdened? Burden my ass. Sikong Xing's eyes rolled. No wonder her master knew that she was going to the Trichiliacosm, and reminded her to be careful. Her master also told her that the cultivators of the Trichiliacosm were not like the demon cultivators, especially the sky demons. They knew how to cultivate from the moment they were born. But the cultivators here were very smart. They were far more intelligent than demon cultivators and demon cultivators. This was also the reason why the Trichiliacosm could survive in the cracks between the demon world, and gradually develop and become the 3 realms. Sikong Xing didn't understand the meaning of her master's words before, but now she completely understood. Couldn't they just ask for such a small matter directly? They had to go in a circle. With this time, Ming-Chi could explain the 4 seasons 4 commands formation and let them cure Xue Lingfeng. Sikong Xing snorted. No. She had to remind Ming-Chi not to let her fall into their trap. She definitely couldn't let her suffer. She hated this kind of cunning people the most. Sikong Xing made up her mind. In any case, she wasn't afraid of offending these powerful cultivators. She immediately said loudly, "It's good that Sect Master Wen understands. The life and death of Miss Xue really has nothing to do with us. We'll take our leave." After she finished speaking, she reached out and pulled Ming-Chi. "Let's go, Ming-Chi. You've worked too hard these 2 days. Go back and have a good rest. Tomorrow is the Medical Cultivator Assembly." After Sikong Xing finished speaking, She took Meng Qi's arm and was about to take her away when his expression changed and a trace of annoyance flashed through his eyes. But he quickly nodded with a smile. That's right. Tomorrow is the first day of the Medical Cultivator Assembly. Little friend Meng should have a good rest. This old man is also looking forward to little friend Meng's performance in the large competition. He smiled and waved his hand, his sleeves fluttering. I'm ashamed to say that Brother Shui and I are examiners of the large competition. We also know the importance of young medical cultivators, especially lone cultivators, in this large competition. We should have thought of this earlier. We shouldn't have disturbed little friend Meng today. Wen Su smiled and looked at Meng Qi. Little friend Meng Qi, go back and rest early. Don't miss tomorrow's large competition because of this. Xikong Xing raised her eyebrows. This old man was very bad. She could tell that he was threatening Meng Qi. Why were these cultivators so annoying? On the surface, they all looked like sages, but they dilly-dallied over such a small matter. It was not refreshing at all. Xikong Xing also knew that the large competition in the Medical Cultivator Assembly was a very important opportunity for medical cultivators who did not belong to any sect or wanted to enter a large sect to cultivate. Meng Qi's main reason for coming to Descending Star City was to participate in the large competition. However, Xikong Xing did not want Meng Qi to enter the Wind Alliance at all. Perhaps after a long time, he would become like these people. She would die of discomfort. Xikong Xing gently bit her lower lip and hesitated. She turned her head to look at her friend. Meng Qi's expression was indifferent. Other than the slight curl of his lips at the beginning, he was not affected by he and the rest at all. It was not like she had never seen such a thing before. Although cultivators cultivated their hearts, the 3,000 worlds was so big and there were so many cultivators. A top sect like the Wind Alliance was always more complicated. Meng Qi looked at Xikong Xing's hesitant and worried gaze and smiled at her. She knew about these things, but it did not mean that she agreed. I can cure Miss Shue's poison. Her voice was clear and cold with a trace of alienation. When he looked up at Meng Qi in shock, Wen Su and Xuechuan's expressions did not change. It was as if to them, it did not matter whether Meng Qi helped or not. Oh, Wen Su even said with concern. Although I'm worried about Ling Feng, little friend, please don't force yourself. After all, tomorrow is the Medical Cultivator Assembly, and the large competition will officially start on the first day. Little friend, you should rest well and recharge your energy. It's better if you don't miss the large competition. Father. When he became anxious. Shut up. When Su glared at his son coldly. We can't be so selfish and only think about ourselves. Xikong Xing was about to vomit. Meng Qi's expression was still indifferent. Sect Leader 1, don't worry. I have confidence. Meng Qi said. But to cure Miss Shue's poison, she pondered for a moment. Since little friend insists, I won't persuade you anymore. Just tell me what you need, and the Wind Alliance will naturally do our best to make it convenient for you. When he was still smiling, I can cure Miss Shue's poison, but my fee is not low. Meng Qi said lightly. Wen Su and Xuechuan seemed to be startled. The two looked at each other, and a trace of disdain flashed in their eyes. The Wind Alliance was a sect of medical cultivators, and naturally would not treat patients for free. But they did not expect that this little foundation establishment cultivator only wanted spirit stones. If they had known that she was so shallow, they would not have gone in such a big circle. Miss Shui is of noble birth and noble status. The poison she was poisoned with is also so troublesome. Meng Qi's tone was slightly colder. I want 3,000 Xian spirit stones. Xian spirit stones? 3,000. Even when he could not help but exclaim. As the largest medical cultivator sect in the Western land, the Wind Alliance was actually much wealthier than sword sects like the Falling Star Pavilion and magic cultivation sects like the Burning Sky Palace. But Meng Qi asked for Xian spirit stones. 3,000 Xian spirit stones. Even though when he came from the One clan, and did not worry about spirit stones since he was young, he was still shocked. That was the price of a powerful magic treasure or a long-lost pill formula in the heavenly auction house of the human realm upon heavens. Not to mention those small sects, even some of the mid-level sects that were qualified to participate in the medical cultivator conference might use their sect's resources, and even need to sell Dharma treasures and formulas to barely take out so many Xian spirit stones. Mengqi was really daring to ask for it. When his gaze was slightly cold, his previous enthusiasm had completely disappeared. His dark gaze swept across Mengqi, and his heart was filled with disdain. No wonder Big Brother Xue praised him in the burning city, and did not mention Mengqi again, after the Huajiang manner. This person was indeed cold-hearted. Not only did he not have any feelings for his fellow sect members, but he was also greedy. He was really disdainful. Yes. When Su's eyes flashed with anger, he took a deep breath and said slowly, "But I'm afraid little friend Meng needs to guarantee that you can definitely cure little Ling Feng." His voice also turned cold. The smile on his face disappeared as he looked deeply at Mengqi. "Little friend Meng, can you guarantee it?" "Yes." Mengqi raised his eyebrows and mimicked his tone. 3,000 Xian spirit stones. Any one of the 4 big families of the Wind Alliance could definitely take out that amount. But when Su never thought that this little foundation establishment cultivator would be so arrogant to ask for Xian spirit stones. He took another deep breath and turned to leave. He whispered to the disciple guarding the door. With his status, he naturally would not bring too many spirit stones with him. In less than half an hour, the Wind Alliance disciple returned with a brocade pouch in his hands. He respectfully presented it to Wen Su. "Give it to her." Wen Su raised his chin slightly and nodded in the direction of Mengqi. That disciple felt the coldness from the family head, and hurriedly presented the brocade pouch to Mengqi. When he retreated, he could not help but quickly look up at Mengqi. The girl in front of him was as elegant as an orchid. Her cultivation was clearly lower than his, but even when facing the Wen and Xue family heads who had much higher cultivations than her, she seemed to be calm and composed. "Please leave," Mengqi said. "Humph." When he snorted coldly, and turned to walk towards the door. When Su flicked his sleeves and also followed his son out. Xue Chuan was the last. Before he turned and left, he took a deep look at Mengqi. The dignified Xue family head paused and said indifferently, "I saw that my son respected little friend Meng so much, so I didn't want to care about the results of the competition. Since I still have a say in the Wind Alliance, I will leave a place for little friend in the sect no matter what." He paused and said, "Now it seems that little friend has a lot of ideas and is very confident in this competition. You don't need my help." After Xuechuan finished speaking, he walked out without looking back. The door closed with a creak. Si Kongxing exhaled. "Mengqi, I thought those 2 bad old men would attack you." "They won't." Mengqi smiled. "How do you know?" Si Kongxing looked at her curiously. "Do they really have no way to cure Xue Lingfeng's poison? But as long as they..." She covered her mouth with her hand and blinked her big bright eyes at Mengqi. Her meaning was very clear. "And aren't they going to ask Sect Master Shen?" The more Si Kongxing thought about it, the more she didn't understand. That Li Chei's poison has already been cured. Can't they just ask Sect Master Shen? "They won't either," Mengqi said. "The Tsongleng Academy is not ranked among the medical cultivation sects in the entire Trichiliocosm. The Wind Alliance is one of the few large sections. They won't ask a sect that they look down on." Mengqi paused and said, "Sect Master Shen is very modest and isn't the kind of person who would spread the news everywhere. Maybe they don't even know that Li Chei's poison has been cured." Si Kongxing. She was a little speechless. Then Mengqi, "Do they really have no way to cure Xue Lingfeng's poison?" "Give them a little more time, they can," Mengqi said. "But what you and Su Junmo said that day was very reasonable. The person who poisoned them came for the medical cultivation assembly. Poisoning 3 Wind Alliance disciples in one go clearly shows that they want to humiliate the Wind Alliance." "I understand." Si Kongxing nodded. "So they must cure Xue Lingfeng's poison before the medical cultivation assembly. They can't let them die. That's why they don't dare to take the risk and try." "Yes." Mengqi nodded. "That's why they beat around the bush to provoke you into making a move." Si Kongxing snorted. "Fortunately, Mengqi, you didn't fall for it. You even ruthlessly ripped them off." Meng Qi smiled. She first took out a pill from her bosom, dissolved it, and sent it into the mouth of the still unconscious Shui Lingfeng. Then she helped Shui Lingfeng up. Xing, help me. Okay. Xing walked to the bedside. What do I need to do? Guard me, don't let them come in. Meng Qi said. Xing was startled. But those two old men, their cultivation is higher than mine. Looking at their appearance, their auras are faintly discernible. They are powerhouses who are about to enter the insightful emptiness realm. Meng Qi thought for a moment. She got up and quickly set up a formation around the bed. Then she casually threw a few spirit stones on it. Xing, if they come in, activate the formation. What is this? The Four Seasons Four Commands formation has a protective formation. Meng Qi smiled. I'm applying what I've learned. Once a powerhouse at the peak of the spirit severing stage infuses their spiritual power. TSK. She smiled and shook her head, sitting cross-legged on the bed. Meng Qi was willing to directly tell cultivators like sect leader Shen and Li Che the secret of the Four Seasons Four Commands formation. But she wasn't willing to be so honest with the people of the Wind Alliance. Meng Qi lowered her eyes, stretched out her hand to form a seal, and put it on Shui Lingfeng's back. Shui Lingfeng was a Jindan stage cultivator, Meng Qi was at least a Zhuji stage cultivator, and the Clear Wind spell was at the fourth realm, so it was still possible for him to detoxify her. She spent 2 hours, and because of the lack of spiritual power, she had to stop several times to wait for her spiritual power to recover. After 2 hours, Meng Qi withdrew her hand from Shui Lingfeng's back, sweating profusely. She turned over and jumped out of bed, throwing a Biming pill into her mouth to recover her spiritual power first. Meng Qi, is she okay? Xing looked at Shui Lingfeng, who was lying on the bed again, and asked. Meng Qi didn't say anything, and nodded gently. Meng Qi didn't wait for Xing to speak, took out a bamboo slip, quickly wrote this line of words, and handed it to her. I gave her a calming pill that can let her sleep for 12 hours. Xing understood her meaning, and also wrote on the bamboo slip, You're worried that they'll attack you? It's never wrong to be careful. She wrote on the bamboo slip, We'll wait for Su Junmo. Also, she had a rare sly smile. I spent 3,000 Xian spirit stones. I have to let the elders of the Wind Alliance feel that it's worth it. Xing couldn't help but laugh. She always felt that Meng Qi seemed to have changed a little since that day when she detoxified Li Che. Meng Qi reached out to pour herself a cup of tea, and drank it, then sat back on the bed with her legs crossed. She closed her eyes and began to recall the new qi cultivation technique she learned in the outer heaven. Previously, she had just barely memorized it, but now that she wanted to use it for cultivation, just by following the technique and breathing in the surrounding spiritual energy, Meng Qi tried for a while. After an hour, she finally felt traces of spiritual energy slowly enter her spiritual sea. The amount of spiritual energy absorbed in a small cycle of the technique was more than 10 times more than when she used the Cool Breeze Valley technique to cultivate. Meng Qi was overjoyed. This also meant that her cultivation speed could be increased by 10 times or even more. Since she had nothing to do, Meng Qi simply sat on Shui Lingfeng's bed and peacefully cultivated. Another 6 hours passed, and there was finally a hurried knock on the door. Su Junmo's voice came from the other side of the door, with a hint of worry. Meng Qi, Xing, are you inside? Meng Qi opened her eyes and turned to look outside. She jumped off the bed and quickly erased the traces of the array beside the bed. Xing then went to open the door. When Su Junmo saw the two of them, he was obviously relieved. His eyes were filled with fear, and he regretted leaving Meng Qi and Xing alone in Rosy Lane. If something really happened to the two girls, he wouldn't be able to forgive himself even if he died 100 times. Fellow Taoist Meng. Standing beside Su Junmo was Xue Qingxian. He cupped his hands towards Meng Qi, looked at her face and asked, Fellow Taoist Meng, thank you for curing my sister's poison. Is Lingfeng better now? The poison has been cured. Meng Qi said lightly. We will also take our leave. I will send the three of you out. Xue Qingxuan's eyes flashed with a hint of helplessness. He could hear the alienation in Meng Qi's tone. and he could also see the caution in the eyes of the beautiful girl in red beside Meng Qi. He could even feel the dissatisfaction of his good friend Su Junmo. No need. Meng Qi shook her head and said to Su Junmo, "Let's go." The three of them walked out of the inn side by side, and Xue Chengxian looked at their backs as they walked away. He stood there in a daze for a moment, then turned and hurried into the room. Lingfeng. Xue Chengxian reached out to feel his sister's wrist. Her pulse had already stabilized, and the poison in her body had indeed been cured. He let out a long sigh, and a hint of helplessness flashed across his eyes. Outside Lingfeng's door when he peeked in, "Brother Xue, is Sister Lingfeng better?" "Yes." Xue Chengxian nodded. His expression was sullen, and he suddenly turned to look at Wen He. "I've already reported to father that if I still can't think of a way to cure Lingfeng's poison, I will personally ask Meng Qi to help. Why did you lure me away, and even let me trick Brother Su to do such a thing?" On the other side, the three of them had already returned to Rosy Lane, and were sitting around the table in Meng Qi's room. "Damn." Su Junmo was stunned. "You really knocked?" "No. You took 3,000 Xian spirit stones from the Wind Alliance." "Meng Qi, you're good. Good job." Su Junmo became excited again. The Wind Alliance deserved it. The reason why they couldn't do anything about Lingfeng's poison, other than the Four Seasons 4 commands array, was because they wanted to save face. "Those two old men are very bad," Si Kongxing said. "One is surnamed One, and the other is surnamed Xue. They're both bad people." The Wind Alliance brought all their disciples to Descending Star City this time. Of course, it's not difficult to find a Foundation Establishment medical cultivator in Descending Star City. It's just that they're looking for a Foundation Establishment medical cultivator in the entire city. His detoxification techniques are at least at the 3rd realm, and he's also able to detoxify their young miss. The Wind Alliance definitely won't agree. Su Junmo seemed to be mumbling to himself, but also seemed to be talking to the other two. Also, there's no such thing as an airtight wall in the world. When the news that the Wind Alliance can't detoxify their own disciple, and had to ask for help from an outsider, and a Foundation Establishment cultivator spreads, the entire Wind Alliance will be worried that others will point fingers behind their backs. The Wind Alliance's reputation as the #1 medical cultivator sect in the Western Kingdom for thousands of years might not be maintained. Brilliant. The person who poisoned him is really brilliant. Su Junmo heavily punched his own palm. He turned to look at Meng Qi and Si Kongxing, and his eyes were astonishingly bright. This person's brilliance is not only in his poisoning techniques, but also in his array formation. He also predicted the Wind Alliance's thoughts, so what if they know what to do? The Wind Alliance still doesn't dare to act rashly. Also, with the array formation on Xue Lingfeng's back, those who don't know will definitely be very worried. Su Junmo paced back and forth in the room twice, and continued. They might have already found Master Shen of the Surging Waves Academy, but he obviously didn't tell them the secret of the array formation. Master Shen is not bad. Meng Qi nodded. Shen Jingheng and Li Che were both not bad. So, after thinking about it, it's best that they already know about this, and they happen to be Foundation Establishment cultivators, and they can even discover the array formation on Xue Lingfeng's back, Meng Qi. Also, Su Junmo narrowed his eyes. This is Descending Star City after all, and the Pavilion Master of Descending Star Pavilion clearly wants to protect you. The #1 sword cultivator sect in the Eastern Kingdom. Once the sword is drawn, the stars will lose their light. The Wind Alliance also doesn't dare to offend Pei Mufeng too much. So they thought of this method to deal with you, but they probably didn't expect. Ha 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 ha. He was originally full of anger, but today he was invited out by Xue Qingxian to investigate the person who poisoned him. Later, he found out that the other party lured him away because they wanted to get their hands on Meng Qi. Su Junmo was really angry at that time, but fortunately he saw that Meng Qi was fine. Not only was he fine, but he also extorted 3,000 Xian spirit stones from the Wind Alliance. Those were Xian spirit stones. Even the 4 old men of the Wind Alliance should feel the pain, right? But Meng Qi, Su Junmo turned and asked, aren't you afraid that they'll kill you to silence you? I'm afraid, Meng Qi said. When I cured Xue Lingfeng, I set up the 4 seasons 4 orders formation around her. Then, I fed her a calming pill, which will let her sleep for 12 hours. I was thinking that you should have come back by now. The reason why they treated me like this is because they don't want to fall out with you, and they don't want to make things too awkward with Pavilion Master Pei. Also, she smiled. Don't they have 2 disciples who were poisoned? I didn't tell them the secret of the formation. I think that they either didn't go to Sect Master Shin, or they did, but Sect Master Shin didn't tell them. Otherwise, they wouldn't have come to find me. Su Junmo moved closer and stared at Meng-Chi carefully. He smiled and said, Meng-Chi, you've become bad. Because I want to live well and become stronger. Meng-Chi smiled and said jokingly, I still have people I want to see and things I want to do. She was no longer the ignorant cultivator who only cared about medicine and didn't care about anything else. Well done. Su Junmo gave Meng-Chi a thumbs up. You also helped me vent my anger. He paced around the room a few times. But the Wind Alliance is really despicable. No. I have to vent my anger. Aha. Su Junmo looked at Meng-Chi. I don't know who poisoned me this time, but I suddenly want to thank him. His relationship with the Wind Alliance was originally good, but Su Junmo was very dissatisfied with them ever since Great Elder Shui attacked Meng-Chi without asking for the reason. It wasn't that he didn't know about the pride of these large sects, but he didn't expect it to be so serious. It seemed that Xue Qingshuan's ability to persuade them to accept the medical cultivation assembly hosted by Falling Star Pavilion was not as simple as he said. Perhaps there was a bigger problem with the Wind Alliance. Su Junmo pondered. He didn't plan to tell Meng-Chi and Xikong Xing about this, but he had to report it to his lord. I don't know. Meng-Chi shook his head. It should be a cultivator who is skilled in medicine and formations, and is dissatisfied with the Wind Alliance or the Medical Cultivation Assembly. 100 miles outside of Fallen Star City, in a valley behind 2 tall mountains that reached into the clouds. Sunlight rarely shone into this place. The cliffs on both sides were bare, and there were only some sparse weeds on the ground. Lu Qingran knelt on the side with her head lowered. Her eyes were red, and she carefully glanced at the black-clothed cultivator sitting cross-legged on the ground from time to time. The other person was sitting with his back facing her, and the black gauze bamboo hat on his head was placed to the side. From where Lu Qingran was standing, she could clearly see 3 long black scars on the other person's right cheek. The wounds caused by some unknown weapon were very deep and narrow, from the man's forehead all the way to the back of his ear. She didn't know how long it had been, but there were no signs of it healing. The man's body suddenly stiffened. Even the 3 wounds on his body started to distort, making him look extremely terrifying. Lu Qingran hurriedly retracted her gaze and nervously grabbed the hem of her long robe. Humph! The black-clothed man snorted. The sparse grassland in front of him instantly withered and turned yellow. The grass quickly turned to black ash, and then disappeared in the wind. The black-clothed man's body finally relaxed. He grabbed the bamboo hat and put it on, and then turned to look at Lu Qingran, who was curled into a ball. Get up! Lu Qingran quickly looked up at him, and then slowly stood up. Ah! She exclaimed softly. The man's slender, pale, but powerful fingers were already tightly holding her chin, forcing her to look up at him. What are you in such a hurry for? The black-clothed man stared at her for a moment. When I captured that Xue family girl, I told you that I was just adding some entertainment to them, and would not casually kill people. You didn't release that Xue family girl, but dared to release that male Xiao from Surging Waves Academy behind my back. His hand exerted force, and Lu Qingran's body was almost lifted by him. If there is a next time. His voice was bone-chilling. I will capture that pretty boy back, and personally tear him to pieces in front of you. Lu Qingran's tears fell, and she desperately shook her head. I won't dare to do it again. I won't dare to do it again. Let me go. Emph. The man snorted again. You better remember what I said. He let go, and Lu Qingran fell to the ground. Other than the red circles around her eyes, there were also 2 red streaks on her soft cheeks. However, she did not even dare to cry too loudly, for fear of angering the man in front of her. Ever since Huajiang Manor, the man's originally eccentric personality became even more unpredictable. The black-clothed man turned and looked in the direction of descending Star City, and a trace of bloodthirsty excitement flashed in his eyes. Didn't Meng-Chi really want to participate in that medical cultivators' assembly, and also want to go to the Wind Alliance? Ha ha ha. He laughed coldly. I definitely won't let her have such a good time. And I definitely won't let her get what she wants. Those old men in the Wind Alliance who want to save face must be in a terrible fix now, and they don't have the time to care about a small cultivator like her. Ha 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 ha. As the man spoke, he suddenly laughed wantonly. After he was done laughing, he turned and said to Lu Qingran, "Now follow me to Descending Star City. I will find someone to mess up the medical cultivators' assembly. As for you, remember the method I taught you. You have to treat those people well. I want the medical cultivators' assembly, and that Meng-Chi to lose all face." Ha 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 ha. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.